That sounds good then.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Peter. Councilor Williams, can you hear me okay?
Good morning, Councilor Willens. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Morning, Peter. Councilor Williams checking in.
Good morning, Councilor Williams. You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
It's Mayor Brown here, just making sure my audio is okay.
Good morning, Mayor Brown. You're coming through loud and clear. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of Brampton's Committee of Council today. It's lovely to see many folks in the gallery here joining us in person. Welcome. We will begin with the meeting with the City Clerk calling the roll for the meeting.
Members of committee, I will call your name. Please indicate your presence in today's meeting. Councilor Dillon. Councilor Dillon.
Present.
Councilor Singh is present in chambers. Councilor Fortini is present in chambers. Councilor Williams.
Hello, I'm here.
Councilor Medeiros is present in chambers. Councilor Bowman. Present in chambers. Councilor Paleshi.
Good morning, everybody present.
Councilor Willens.
Present.
Councilor Basante is present in chambers. Mayor Brown.
Present.
And Chair Santos is present. All 11 members are present, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. Our next item is the approval of the agenda. Do any members have anything to add? Please, if so, please add to the chat function or push your button here in the chamber. Councilor Fortini.
Yes, good morning. I want to add a couple of things. I want to add a discussion on risk insurance.
Thank you, Councilor Fortini.
Also, a discussion, I think, on our rec centers, Vic Park, Howden Recreation Center. And also, there's going to be something going in closed We're going to add an enclosed item for proposal pending acquisition and disposition of land and municipal of local board. Enclosed. And my other thing is the naming of the Italian Park is the 4th. And if we have an update on the animal shelter.
Okay, just looking over to the city solicitor about the in-camera item.
Yeah.
Does the city solicitor know
Yes,
about
it
that?
does.
Yes, through the chair, to the councillor, I think there were two exceptions under the municipal act that were applicable. It was the acquisition as well as negotiation. So that's for the city clerk to note.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Paleshi.
On my name. It's not showing up.
Oh, okay, Councillor Singh, go ahead, and then followed by Councillor Paleshi.
Okay. I'd like to refer the item that was sent yesterday at 6:18. A lot of us had committees, and I just saw it in the morning, so I'd like to refer that to next committee of council.
Which item?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the item was, is it the closed session item that was distributed last night by email?
Yeah, I had library board meeting. I just saw it in the morning, so.
So that's closed session item 15.1. So as part of the approval of the agenda, a motion is moved then to defer this to the next committee of council meeting, which is May 11th.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Singh. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to add a discussion item, Private Members Bill C-2333, raising the level of education on domestic violence and coercive control for federally appointed judges, please. And Madam Chair, through you to the clerk's office, I have a motion for that, and if approved, can I ask the clerk's office send that to all members of council?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Paleshi. Any further additions from members of council? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, if you could please summarize.
Sorry, Madam Chair,
Yes?
it's Council Dillon. Yeah, just an FYI, just for the information of council, I was going to add an item in regards to a motion that Councillor Bertini and I will be presenting tomorrow at the region for in relation to the MCR, but I was advised by the clerk that I should bring it up during the government relations. So just a heads up for council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Dillon. All right, Mr. Clerk, if you could please summarize the additions to the agenda or changes.
Through you, Chair Santos. So the following are the proposed changes for the agenda. An added discussion item from Councillor Fortini that'll be identified as item 8.3.1 under the Community Services section regarding recreation centers, Vic Park and Howden. An item, again, proposed by Councillor Fortini under Legislative Services section, identified as 9.3.2, an update on the animal shelter. Another item under Corporate Services section proposed by Councillor Fortini that'll be identified as 11.3.2 regarding risk insurance. An item under Corporate Services section proposed from Councillor Paleshi will be identified as 11.3.3 regarding a discussion item regarding Private Members Bill C-233, raising the level of education on domestic violence and coercive control for federally appointed judges. And there will be a motion that the clerk's office will distribute to members to accompany that item once it's added. We also have closed session business, new business added that'll be identified as 15.4 on today's agenda, an open meeting exception under section 239 2C and K of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a position plan procedure criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and that was proposed by Councillor Fortini. And finally, there's a request from Councillor Singh to defer item 15.1 on the closed session agenda to the May 11th meeting. And those are the proposed changes at this point. Chair Santos.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk, for that summary. Do any members have any opposition to the amendments made for the agenda? Seeing none, that motion carries. Next item is declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have any declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. The next item is consent. Committee, as part of our consent motion process, I'm going to read all the agenda items that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. I'll start with 8.2.2, staff report, response to council referred matter, recognition of the Blackburn family. That is in consent. 9.2.1, staff report, 2021 federal election sign enforcement. No holds, that is in consent. 9.3.1, minutes, accessibility advisory committee, March 8th. That is in consent. 11.2.3, staff report, 2022 transportation asset management plan. That is in consent. 11.4.1, correspondence from Rosemarie, President CARP, dated April 2022, hospital funding for Brampton. That is in consent. 11.4.2, 12.2.1, staff report regarding initiation of subdivision assumption, Dusty Rose Holdings, Inc. That is in consent. 12.2.2, staff report, traffic calming program citywide. Consent. 12.2.3, staff report, request to begin procurement for environmental and geotechnical consulting services for a 3-year period. In consent.
Hold, Councilor Palashi.
Oh, Councilor Palashi held. Thank you. 12.2.4, staff report, special event road closures, Rotary Rib and Roll 2022. 12.2.5, staff report, request to begin procurement, replacement of Brampton Transit CAD and AVL system. 12.2.6, staff report regarding e-bus trial update, phase 1. Consent. Staff report 12.2.7, Brampton Transit update moving forward.
Hold, please.
Hold by Councilor Bowman. 12.2.8, staff report transit bus electrification update. 12.3.1, minutes, Brampton School Traffic Safety Council in consent. 12.4.1, correspondence from Jamie McGivery, President, Association of Municipalities of Ontario, regarding municipal pension investments and climate crisis. That is in consent. The clerk will now summarize the items to be included for the consent motion for approval, and then we will have a recorded vote.
Through you, Chair Santos, to members of the committee, for simplicity, I'll just summarize those items that are held with the balance as noted by the chair to be included in the consent. With the addition of 11.4.2, there are 2 communications from the president of CARP, one on Brampton U, one on the University of Brampton, one on hospital funding. So the 2 items held for debate will be 12.2.3, a staff report regarding a request to begin procurement for environmental and geotechnical consulting services for a 3-year period, held by Councillor Palashi, and 12.2.7, a staff report regarding Brampton Transit update moving forward, held by Councillor Bowman, with the balance of the items, only those items noted by the chair, to be included on the consent motion. And a recorded vote is required. All in favor of the consent motion, please indicate.
Oh, Councillor Fortini, go ahead.
I don't know if I was supposed to have an added discussion from the Goreway Bridge. If it could be done.
Can we deal with that, Councillor Fortini, after we pass the consent motion, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
In the consent motion, all in favor or opposed, please indicate. Councillor Dillon.
Yes.
Councillor Singh.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Palashi.
Yes.
Councillor Willens.
Yes.
Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
It's a yes. Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Chair Santos.
Yes.
Carries unanimously, 11-0.
Thank you so much. Councillor Fortini, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, and to the clerk. I forgot to add a discussion on the Goreway Bridge and the construction, please.
So that would have been under approval of the agenda,
Yes.
which we've already approved. Mr. Clerk, how would we proceed?
So through you, Chair Santos, committee can reopen its agenda with a 2/3 approval of its agenda with a 2/3 vote, and then another 2/3 vote to add the proposed item, which would be listed under Public Works and Engineering as proposed as 12.3.3. So 1 2/3 vote will suffice if that's the will of committee.
Okay. So is there anyone opposed to adding that additional item as identified by Councillor Fortini? Seeing none, that does carry as a further addition to the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Next item is announcements. We have an announcement regarding the Ontario Chamber of Commerce Annual General Meeting and Convention, Pearson Convention Centre, April 28th to May 1st, 2022. Regional Councillor Vicente is the sponsor, and Laura Luck-Asik is the Manager of Tourism and Special Events, present for today's announcement. Thank you, Laura. Go ahead.
Through the chair, good morning. I'm so very pleased to be here today to share with you that the Brampton Board of Trade and the City of Brampton will be welcoming 150 delegates to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce Annual General Meeting and Convention, which, as Councillor Santos mentioned, will be held at the Pearson Convention Centre from April 28th, to May 1st. Next slide, please. Actually, if you could flip ahead again, that would be great. The quest to have the conference and annual general meeting started in 2019, and I have to say that it was a team effort, so thanks go out to ECDEV as well as the performing arts here at the city. So we submitted a bid book in 2019 and we were successful, so we're very excited that we were able to partner with the Brampton Board of Trade to get this very important event here in the city. Next slide, please. So just to give you some explanation of what this slide actually represents, this is an opportunity for us to share all that Brampton has to offer. So thanks to Stephen Shipper, who I believe is here, Dwayne Gretzky will be playing at the Rose on Friday evening, so that's an event for not only residents, but for the delegates of the conference. And prior to the conference, prior to the concert, there will be an opportunity for delegates to sample some of the very diverse food, wonderful food that Brampton has to offer. And as was mentioned, the conference and AGM will be held at the Pearson Convention Centre. Next slide, please. So we're ramping up to have more conferences in the city and are excited about that. And I'll be sure to work with the Brampton Board of Trade post-conference and AGM to determine what the economic impact is of having conferences here in the city. And that's one very important element of attracting these sorts of events to our city. So very excited for this weekend. Hope some of you may have a chance to drop by and be part of the AGM and convention. And thank you for your time this morning. Happy to answer any questions.
I see no questions at this time. Thank you so much, Laura, for that announcement. Our next section of the agenda is public delegations, and we have quite a number of delegations today. So I will ask all delegates to please stick within your 5-minute time frame. As you know, you've heard us add a whole bunch of other agenda items today. So if you could please stick to 5 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated. So the first delegation is 6.1, a delegation from Todd Fraley, Chair, Board of Directors, and Gurwinder Gill of Kay Blair Hospice regarding Kay Blair Hospice land acquisition. Thank you so much. We also have a closed session item 15.2, which will be considered later during our closed session portion of the meeting. So thank you very much, Todd. And Gurwinder, you have up to 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Mayor Brown, council members, and city staff for this opportunity today. Next slide, please. I'm actually Candace Barone, speaking for Gurwinder Gill, who is absent today due to a family matter. I'm the Executive Director for Kay Blair Hospice, and with me presenting is Todd Fraley, our Board Chair. Kay Blair Hospice is a registered nonprofit organization. We have a diverse group of board members, professionals with expertise in healthcare, hospice, fund development, and legal expertise. And our goal is to build the first 12-bed, state-of-the-art hospice residence to serve the Brampton community. Next slide, please.
So we wanted to make this as succinct as we could. A lot of materials have been provided for staff and for the councillors to review, but we wanted to go over why we're here really, which is the backgrounds and the gaps in care in the Brampton area. I want to thank everybody, though, before we get going, for the opportunity and for all the work that's been done to get us to this point. We've been here for, I think, almost 2 years now, working with council and with the city staff, and a great deal of work has been put in to get us to this point, and I wanted to thank you. Regarding gaps in care, the one point that I want to underscore is that the entire province is short of hospice beds currently, but Brampton itself has 0. We have no beds, and in fact, the data shows that we should have about 35 beds. In fact, Brampton is the only city of its size remaining in Ontario that has no hospice residence beds, and that's why we're here. Next slide, please. So, what is the financial landscape? It's important to note that the financial landscape for hospice is both unique and challenging in Ontario. It's unique and challenging because we are only partially funded. We're the only core health service, integrated core health service, that's not fully funded for operations. We're funded at about 60% of operational funding, and we are only funded at 20% for the construction. So that means we have to work a little harder, put together more partners to make a hospice residence a reality. And frankly, that's why we're here today. That's why we've been working with you for over 2 years. Your gift of land is critical to make this project a reality. Next slide, please. So our request, I guess, to get to the point is, again, we want to recognize all of the work that's gone in. Rajat Gulati, a number of the councillors, so many of staff have met with us, have helped guide us through the process of what you need, what council needs to put in place to make a decision on whether this is a worthy project. And we're here today specifically to ask council to move this project to the next step, if we can. We've had an identified piece of land which has been declared surplus already. We've reviewed the land, and it is more than appropriate for the needs for 12 beds and even for future expansion. We do want to talk a bit about the fact that we would ask, we can make it work if it's gifted and or given to us on a long-term lease, but if you choose, we'd love to have it as a gift because that will accelerate the construction of this by up to 2 years, if that's made available. And when we take a look at the fact that we'll save $1.7 to $2 million a year, that makes a difference in terms of healthcare dollars. Next slide, please. So, what are the benefits? Number one, KBH, or Kabler Hospice, will save approximately $1.7 to $2 million a year, as mentioned. We will serve 1,800 individuals a year. 300 of them are individuals at the end of their life, and an additional 1,500 family, friends, and caregivers will be there as well. We will
Thank you so much, Todd. I don't want to interrupt, but there's about 10 seconds left.
Okay. We will provide 25 to 30 full-time jobs. We will create a center of excellence to support and train palliative care in all other settings, including long-term care and hospitals. So,
Last slide.
last slide. In conclusion, we believe that it's time to build Brampton's first hospice residence, and we hope you will too. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much for your delegation. I see there is a question from Councillor Vicente.
Thank you. No question, Councillor, Madam Chair, other than to say thank you for coming today, and as we go into camera, we'll have a further discussion. But your presence here is very much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. One more. We have one more question from Councillor Singh.
Thank you, and as well, given that we're the area councillor, then we'll update you after our discussion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder to delegates, over to the left of my shoulder is a clock that tells you where you are within that 5-minute time frame. Thank you so much. Next delegation is 6.2, a delegation from Clyde Passis, President, Teo Joseph, Chair, and Karen Pascual Benadai, Co-Chair, Battle 905, regarding the City Marquee event, Battle 905. Thank you so much for coming today. You have 5 minutes for your delegation.
Good morning. My name is Karen Pascual Benedict, and I'm the co-chair of Battle 905 and the president of Battle 416. So what is Battle? As you can tell from the numbers we use, this refers to a city's defining area code. It all began in 2018 when the first Battle 416 began. It was held in partnership with the Mabuhay Philippines Festival. The event was meant to highlight the deep-rooted love of basketball by Filipinos around the world. The initial tournament garnered unprecedented attention to the festival and attracted an audience previously unfamiliar with the event. In many ways, it was a first for the city of Toronto as well. The first 5-on-5 basketball tournament in the heart of downtown Toronto, in a location deeply symbolic to the city, which is Nathan Phillips Square. In its second year, Battle 416 exploded in popularity, riding on the success, word of mouth, and social media impact of the previous year. Images of people playing in a sanctioned basketball tournament on a full-size outdoor court with the facade of Toronto City Hall in the background became groundbreaking. Media outlets such as CP24, CTV News, 680 News, and others descended on the court set up at Nathan Phillips Square to highlight the event. Professional dunkers and basketball players joined the tournament in order to take in the outdoor experience. As a result, audience numbers doubled and demand for court time from out-of-town teams increased. Media outlets had dubbed the event as the newest summer must-see in the city of Toronto. After its initial success and the increase in demand for the same outdoor basketball experience, plans were made to have the tournament in other cities. Battle 905 here in Brampton began to take shape. Unfortunately, the event's third year came to a halt due to COVID-19, but now that COVID-related restrictions are easing, several out-of-town teams have committed to participating in both Battle 905 and Battle 416 events. We are excited to be able to bring this event here to the city of Brampton, where we also have an opportunity to highlight many other things in addition to basketball. Battle 905 can now boast the inclusion of soccer to its core lineup of activities, as well as a fashion show, live entertainment, slam dunk competitions, and a food truck festival. Our Battle team members are hard at work preparing for our Canada Day-long weekend event, which has pulled together teams from various community organizations that would not otherwise find themselves in competition with each other. In addition, we are providing a platform to encourage cultural awareness by showcasing performers from varying backgrounds with an emphasis on the incredible talents from Brampton. We hope that 2022 is the first of many years to come that Battle 905 earns its place as a marquee event for Brampton, and we're hoping that City Council lends us their support. I pass it over to Clyde.
Good morning, City Councilors. Our goal and our mission is to make sure that we highlight this marquee event in Brampton. For the past 2 years, we have expanded and exploded to certain arenas in the city. We have our flagship location in Markup. We are building right now in Mississauga. We have another one in Woodbridge, a facility that is composed with 4 multiple basketball courts, rehabilitation, and physiotherapy. Our goal is to ensure that we can gather the whole community of Brampton as we make way here this year. As such, we would also like to expand our other initiatives in terms of our community, if so and granted that we want to also have a arena here in Brampton in the future. So we'd like to thank you, and we'd like to ask for your support with this upcoming marquee event, and we would love to see you there.
Thank you so much for your delegation. Do any members have any questions for the delegates? I see none at this time. Quick question for me. As a Filipino, I know there are 2 top things that Filipinos love. That's karaoke and basketball.
That's right.
and it's always a competition as to which one they love more. So thank you for your delegation. When is the marquee event happening, just so that we know we can plan for
Well,
it?
it happens on Canada Day.
Okay.
July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to promoting it, as I'm sure my fellow council members look forward to sharing it as well, to promote it as well. Thank you for your delegation.
Thank you so much.
Okay. The next delegation that we have, motion to receive the delegation, please. Moved by Councillor Bowman. Anyone opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Did we move the motion from the last one for Kay Blair? We did not? Okay. Motion moved by Councillor Vicente to receive the Kay Blair Hospice delegation. Anyone opposed? Thank you, that carries. Item 6.3 is a delegation from Brampton Minor Ball Hockey League and board member, request to waive outstanding 2019 balance due to pandemic hardship. We have Mr. Morrow Kujini, who is here today. Mr. Morrow, are you here? Online, thank you.
You can proceed, Morrow. You have up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead and unmute your mic.
Thank you and good morning. I will be brief. Essentially, Brampton Minor Ball Hockey has been established since 2000 and run a successful program up until what occurred pre-pandemic was a for-profit adult program. Essentially took our group to court, trying to stop us from offering youth ball hockey and women's ball hockey in the city of Brampton. As you may know, court injunctions do cost quite a bit of money, and in order to defend it, we had to proceed because this for-profit group was trying to stop us from operating. Essentially, we won the court injunction. We were awarded $25,000, but as many of you may or may not know, it is near impossible to collect because you need banking records of said corporation. So, one, we defended our rights. We won, but have not been able to collect. In the interim, and through the pandemic, we incurred losses which amounted just over $5,000. And we've advised city staff and also circulated the court-awarded judgment to them so that they were aware that this had gone on. So essentially, we're asking for the outstanding matter to be waived to allow us to move forward, reestablish ourselves in the community. One thing with the program is it is one of the highlighted programs in the province of Ontario. We've won numerous provincial championships, Can-American championships, and have placed just under 20 kids on the various junior Canadas from U16, 18, 20 boys, and 20 girls. So we believe it is something to fight for, our existence, given that this for-profit group still exists and the city of Brampton continues to rent to them, and they have affected the numbers pre-pandemic. We were up to about 600 kids in 2019, and heading into 2020, we're going to be at around 400. Obviously, with refunds, we didn't operate for 2 years. And forward to, again, getting back to ball hockey in the community for 2022.
Hello, Mr. Moore, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I just finished. Sorry.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Do any members have any questions? I have Councillor Paleshi followed by Councillor Majeros. Councillor Paleshi, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess a question tomorrow is, I didn't hear the outstanding balance. What is it?
It's just over $5,000.
Just over $5,000. And you said this affected 600 kids in 2019, 400 kids currently today?
Well, no, 400 would have been the membership in 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and we didn't offer a program.
Are those all Brampton children?
We have a high volume of Brampton kids. We meet the BSA standards. We're well above it.
What's your percentage of Brampton children?
Well over 90%.
Okay. Is it safe to say that if we don't waive, then you won't operate, or?
Well, we have tried working with city staff and proposed a few different things. I don't think that what we're asking for, which is why I've come here today, because this is kind of almost a last resort. We're in the process of rebuilding the program after 2 years, and it would be very difficult to, one, start the week after Victoria Day, and two, so yeah, we would probably have a lot of disappointed families and then try to resurrect the program in 2023 if it wasn't.
Okay. It makes me a little bit upset to hear that a private men's league sued one of our Brampton minor ball hockey leagues. Unfortunately, though, that's all the information that I have. So,
Well, city staff does have all the court documents.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mo. So what I'd like to do, I think, is I'd like to refer the delegation back to staff to find out some additional information and have that come back to council at a future date, but I'll hold that referral until I believe there's another speaker on the board. And so, Madam Chair, I'm happy to hold the referral for now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Palashi. And Councillor Medeiros.
Yeah, no, thank you through you, Chair. Councillor Palashi, you beat me to the punch, so I'm happy that you're moving referral to staff so we can get some more information, because notwithstanding an important community organization that provides an opportunity for young people to play a sport, but also notwithstanding we have gone through the pandemic, and this council has been supportive of businesses and organizations. So thank you, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi. Moves a referral back to staff. Any members opposed? That motion carries. Do we have to move to receive, or we're good? Okay, perfect. Our next item is 6.4, a delegation from David Lang and Dale Lang, Bike Brampton, regarding Bike the Creek, June 18th, 2022. David and Dale, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of committee, members of staff, members of the public. We're here today at the request of Councillor Palashi to update members of the committee today about Bike the Creek, which is happening on June 18th of this year. And we're pleased to report that after 2 years of hiatus and virtual event, that it is now in person. Dale and I are sitting on the organizing committee. We're not chairing it. The TRCA is chairing the committee this year, but we're certainly active participants. Sadly, we will not be in attendance after 8 years of being a part of this part of the event. We will not be present because we're taking a long-term vacation to the west coast of Canada. So, but I'm going to leave you in good hands, or we're leaving you in good hands, and we're just going to give you a quick update about the event.
Next slide, please. This is our 8th annual, and we just had a virtual event last year. Of course, it was canceled in 2020. This is a partnership event that does make it, in fact, truly Peel-wide, because we have not only Brampton, Caledon, Mississauga, Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and Bike Brampton, and we're all very active partners in this. Councillor Pelletier had asked, was there anything that Brampton could do? And in fact, Brampton already is doing a lot, certainly their share with, we've got participation from Heritage, from Active Transportation, Transportation Planning, and emergency response, recreation, and parks. I think that's it. And we're expecting probably 1,000 people, and of course, it's a zero waste event.
Next slide. So we have 6 routes again this year, varying from distances of 5 kilometers all the way up to 65 kilometers. And so it is accessible to all people of all ages and all cycling abilities. Thanks.
Next slide, please. We have some terrific sponsors and vendors lined up for both booths at Jim Archdeacon and pavilions along the way. We're delighted that we've got the Friends of Beauvert House that will be participating once again with a pavilion, and our friends at Peel Regional Police will be taking note of bicycle serial numbers for preventing theft. We've got many others lined up. These are just a few of them. We're very happy to welcome a new retailer in Brampton, Decathlon, as well.
Next slide. So there will be a dignitary ride, which you all, and you're all invited. I think you all maybe have received your invitations. So there's a 14K approximately and approximately 20K ride for those that want to go a longer distance. I can tell you from past years that this is not a Bike the Creek route. This is a specialized route just for you folks. And we've had a lot of fun in the past. So we certainly would encourage you to try it. Next slide.
And we have really good people lined up to lead you in David's and my absence, too. We've got a current co-chair of BSAC and a past co-chair of BSAC, so you'll be in good hands. And along the route, we've got some great QR codes lined up. There's going to be a total of 14, and 2 of them are showcasing the city of Brampton with Streets for People and the East-West Cycling Corridor, and then there's 7 more from Bike Brampton that take you to little cycling tip safety messages. Next slide, please.
So there's a number of things that you can do to help us promote the event, put it on your councillor newsletters, incorporate it into your social media campaigns, post it on the city website. There will be some pre-event signage, and we'd be happy to have you point that out to your residents to make sure that everyone's aware of it. We also want to say that this is part of a whole, I want to say bike month, but a bike season that's happening this year. We've got a number of community rides that are taking place by the Cycling Advisory Committee, and we've got lots of other different things that are happening throughout the summer, so the spring, fall, and summer. So including bike pop-ups, 24 bike pop-ups, and I'm over my time, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David and Dale and Bike Brampton, for that update on Bike the Creek. I do have Michael Pelletier, Councillor Pelletier, sorry, on the board. Councillor Pelletier.
Madam Chair, I can't believe the Langs aren't going to be with us this year. I'm going to be asking TRCA to provide cardboard cutouts of David and Dale Lang to ensure that they're front and center. And I'm also going to ask the Langs to provide a pre-recorded audio that we can play to start us off. It won't be the same without you, but I completely understand, given the years that we've gone through. A lot of people need some vacation, and I wish I could join you. The West Coast, I bet that's going to be a really nice vacation for you. And I just wanted to say that, thank you both for, without you, this event wouldn't be happening. 8 years it's been growing and just a fantastic event in the city of Brampton. I think it's one of our biggest that brings in people from all over the place, not just the region of Peel, but outside the region as well. So thank you again for all of the work that you put into this. I look very much forward to the dignitary ride and who you might have leading us through that ride. It's always very fun to get out there, and I know my butt's going to be a little bit sore again this year, but we'll make do, and thank you again. And if there's anything else that you can think of, if we need to provide a stage, if there's anything that you can come up with, or TRCA needs support on, happy to take that call to see if we can get that support through the city. Thank you so much.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Paleshi. Thank you very much, Councillor. And we already do have a stage, and there will be the normal event that happens to showcase active transportation and recreation in the city of Brampton. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Paleshi, and I echo that sentiment. We will miss you this year at Bike the Creek, but I do look forward to promoting it as well as riding the 20-kilometer loop this year as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our motion to receive the delegation from Councillor Paleshi. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. The next item is 6.5, a delegation from Christina Bagatavikius, Principal and Co-Founder, Bespoke Collective, the city's engaged consultant regarding the Performing Arts Strategic Plan. Welcome, Christina, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Christina, you can unmute your mic to address committee.
Hello, hi, can everyone hear me?
We can.
Perfect, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I'm delighted to be here today, so thank you, everyone. I'm Christina Bagatavichus, co-founder and principal at Bespoke Collective. We've been working with the performing arts team over the past year to develop a 5-year plan. So I want to thank Council for the opportunity to present that. And my goal today is to give you a really high-level snapshot, and then you're welcome to dive into the document. I'd also love to answer any questions that you may have. Next slide, please. So this is Brampton's first ever strategic plan. And we really had the opportunity to build it from the ground up. So it was an incredible opportunity to think about the vision through to the key performance indicators and strategic priorities. We engaged over 340 members of the public. We also spoke with internal and external stakeholders to give you a little bit of context before we made any recommendations regarding the plan. We worked hard to connect both with existing audiences and new and potential audiences as well. Next slide, please. So this gives you a little bit of an overview of the process we embarked upon over the last year. We started off with in-depth research and situational analysis. We did an audit. We looked carefully at the organization, at the existing work, at the competitive landscape, and we conducted a SWOT analysis. And then we embarked upon community engagement and consultation. So we conducted a broad series of interviews. We hosted a town hall. We conducted 2 focus groups, one with creatives, local creatives under the age of 25, another that reflected the multidisciplinary artists currently working within Brampton. And we also conducted a survey, which formed the foundation of our visioning sessions. And so our third phase of work was synthesizing everything we heard and then working really closely with the Brampton's performing arts team to develop the strategic plan, working from the vision and the values through to some of those priorities. And then over the last few months, we've been working on refining and identifying 64 objectives and actions to make sure everything kind of flows in alignment. So that's an overview of our process. Next slide, please. So the strategic plan that we have in place advances core documents and core work that's already within the city. We wanted to kind of highlight that. So we know that there's a culture master plan, there's a tourism strategy, and the age-friendly strategy and action plan. And so we also took into account other work underway within the city as an integral part of puzzle pieces that we needed to reflect in the work we did together. Next slide, please. In addition to this, we looked at a wide range of best practice comparable examples. So we looked at 17 local precedents, 3 national, 13 international. We looked at theater companies, municipally run spaces, performing arts centers, programs, and venues. And all of this kind of context help us, identify best practice examples that we could take forward that suited Brampton's unique and localized needs. So that's some context in terms of our research. Next slide, please. So we structured our strategic plan across these building blocks that you can see we have outlined. So, really starting with the vision of who we are, anchored by guiding principles. Then we identified strategic priorities, which are broad directions. And then we looked at objectives, which are the kinds of actions we want to achieve through our vision. And from that, we built out a roadmap over a 5-year plan. And we've also identified KPIs as well to make sure that we're on track and we have the capacity to evaluate and to refine our work along the way. So these are the building blocks that you'll find in the longer strategic planning document that informed our work together. Next slide, please. And so overall, here's the kind of snapshot of the vision. The vision is to build an inspiring performing arts community that reflects the strength and diversity of Brampton. The mission is the Performing Arts Division at the City of Brampton operates outstanding venues throughout the city. We serve all of Brampton and believe the performing arts are essential to everyday life. The values we identified, there are 5. They include inclusion, collaboration, service excellence, accountability, and innovation. And this is kind of the heart of the strategic plan. Next slide, please. And we also identified 3 guiding principles. These kind of infuse and anchor our work across the priorities. They were so important, they really just flow across everything we did. So we believe, strongly in diversity and inclusion needing to inform all of our strategic priorities and all of the work ahead. We are also kind of looking at a citywide campus model, which means we want to think holistically about those 4 venues and facilities and look at their placemaking potential throughout the city in a holistic way so that they work together and they leverage each other's strengths and visibility. And we also recognize that local community building is also essential to a successful plan. And so we've also identified that as a key principle that flows through this work. Next slide, please. So we identified 4 strategic priorities. The first is to expand community programming and outreach, and that means building meaningful relationships locally and expanding programming to meet the needs of local community. The second strategic priority is to deepen equity, diversity, inclusion, and access. And so that is a second kind of layer that we'll be really focused on to make sure on stage, within audiences, within staff, we're doing work around equity, diversity, inclusion, and access. The third strategic priority is to invest in streamlined marketing, communications, and website across all of the performing arts venues. So that kind of integrated approach that builds on the strengths of the sites and talks in a bigger way about the facilities and the performing arts within the city and its role in terms of placemaking. And then the fourth strategic priority is developing organizational resilience. And that is really looking carefully at the organization, at the kind of funding and the models that we have available for revenue, and making sure we're kind of building out thoughtfully moving forward over the next 5 years. So that gives you a snapshot of the 4 strategic priorities and the way we're going to operationalize that. If we move to next slide. We have a roadmap we've organized across the timeline. We have 3 key phases across the roadmap. Each phase is between 12 to 20 months. Phase 1 is assessing the basics. So across those 4 principles, we'll be assessing the changes that are needed to mobilize the strategic plan. So we'll be reviewing processes, establishing foundational frameworks, identifying system-wide changes that are needed within those buckets I've identified. The second phase is about rebuilding the foundations. So this is about, launching activities, new initiatives, and programs that build on the outcomes and findings from the first phase. We want to be backed by research at this phase, so it's thoughtfully launching and implementing, testing our new approaches. And then the final phase is a refinement of plans. This is the moment where we evaluate and refine initiatives and ensure what we implement is aligned with our strategic priorities and our overall vision that we started off with. So that's kind of our rough roadmap. And then last slide, please. Oh, sorry, missed this one. This is a little bit more detail around the key performance indicators that we identified. So we have 4 to 5 KPIs for each of the phases In phase one, this is mostly about setting up the new frameworks, processes, and structures. In phase two, this is about launching and initiating our plans and kind of tracking that in terms of our KPIs. And then in phase three, we're at the stage of refinement. So we're tracking if we've increased awareness, reached a broader and more diverse demographic, and strengthened accessibility throughout our sites. So those are the kind of KPIs that will be guiding this work over the 5-year period. We are also recommending a community advisory group who will be a sounding board for this work and ensure that we listen to community throughout the 5 years so that they guide us and help us and kind of work through the plan in action. So last slide, please. So our next steps for this strategic plan are council approval. We'll be launching a communication plans shortly, the Performing Arts Division with the Strat Comms team, and then we're hoping to implement what we've outlined to you today. We want to thank you so much for your time. I hope I've stayed within the time constraints, and I welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Christina, for that delegation. We also have a report associated with this, which is item 8.2.1, a staff report regarding the 2022 to 2027 Performing Arts Strategic Plan. And we will bring that forward now. Do any members have any questions regarding the presentation as well as from the report and the strategic plan? I see none. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini to receive the delegation and also approve the recommendations in the report. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Very exciting. We have our first Performing Arts Strategic Plan. Well done. Our next delegation is 6.6, a delegation from the University of Guelph-Humber's possible relocation to the city of Brampton. And we have with us today Daniel Atlin, VP External Affairs of the University of Guelph, Kelly Jackson, VP External Affairs and Professional Learning from Humber College, as well as Ronnie Dhaliwal, Executive Lead, University of Guelph-Humber Brampton Partnership. Thank you for joining us. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Council. Could we actually ask for 10 minutes, for, given the nature of our report?
Okay, a motion moved by Councillor Vicente to extend the time to 10 minutes. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That carries. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So my name is Daniel Atlin, and I have the pleasure of serving as a Vice President External at the University of Guelph. And so we're very pleased to be with you here today to provide you an update on the productive and positive conversations the U of GH team have had with city staff since your unanimous support last June for us to explore the potential relocation of the University of Guelph-Humber to downtown Brampton. Now, this is an exciting project which would be unprecedented, locating an established university to Canada's fastest growing university. And so given the time constraints, we're not going to speak to every slide. However, you're going to have that for your referral for later on. So first of all, I'll go to the next slide, please. So the University of Guelph-Humber is actually a unique partnership between the University of Guelph and Humber College. And it's very rare and unprecedented to find that kind of partnership between two of the country's premier universities and polytechnics that combines the depth and breadth of programs and expertise and builds on the strengths of each in research and academics. I just want to highlight a little bit about the strengths, especially of the University of Guelph, who of course is the parent institution here. And the University of Guelph actually is known as one of Canada's top comprehensive universities. And those are universities that are heavy in research without a medical school. And we continually sort of battle for that title amongst University of Victoria and University of Waterloo. And we also are recognized as Canada's most research-intensive university, and that's research dollars per faculty member. We're globally ranked amongst top institutions, not just for agriculture and veterinary sciences, but also in life sciences, environmental sciences, economics, chemistry, and computer science. Next slide, please. We are very excited to bring these programs and strengths to Brampton to develop new STEM programs, undergraduate degree and post-masters and micro-credentials to meet the ongoing needs of Brampton as it grows. Currently, we have more than 5,100 students enrolled in full-time studies, and I just must note that only 70 of those students are international. The student population comes mostly from the GTA, with 40% of them residing in Brampton and Peel. And because of this, almost all of our students are commuters. We know that students who apply but decide not to attend the University of Guelph-Humber choose to go elsewhere, and where they choose to go is actually the University of Toronto, York, and Ryerson. Without precedent, again, we've been moving an existing university campus to another community, and this is Brampton. And we really would like to offer programming that is developed in partnership with the community and industry. And given the current context in Ontario, it's almost impossible to imagine another way to have a post-secondary university of this size enter a community. And that's because currently, universities and colleges don't get any funding for additional students, so this move is an ideal way to have a sizable, comprehensive university in Brampton.
Thank you. If we could go to the slide that says 2026 Building the Foundation, it's the next one after this. Thank you. So I'm Kelly Jackson from Humber College, and I know you're going to hear a lot today. You've got a long meeting, so I just really want to focus today, my remarks, and highlight 3 numbers for you: 5,000, 94, and 4. So let's start with 5,000. We're talking about bringing 5,000 students in just a few short years. If we can work together, they can be learning in downtown Brampton in a new state-of-the-art campus. That campus will be partnered with a future-focused library connected to community and industry, and Brampton's Innovation District will be buzzing with energy. As Daniel mentioned, many of these students and their families already live in Peel and in Brampton. And these students, imagine, will now have greater choice and access to university degree programs closer to home, programs that are connected to local employment pathways and to job placements. Students who are looking to build on their undergraduate education and take a master's degree no longer have to leave the city. Just think about what it would mean for students and families in terms of the savings and commuting alone. Now let's talk about 94. $94 million to Brampton's GDP every year. I know this council is well aware of the economic benefits that come with establishing a major university presence, the hundreds of new jobs that are going to be created, the increase in local spending, and the increase in tax revenues. Municipalities across the board recognize the competitive landscape, and we know that many have made strategic moves in the last number of years. As you know, Milton has made significant investments to attract campus expansions from Laurier and Conestoga. City of Markham and York Region have invested significant funds to see an expansion of York University into Markham. The last number I mentioned was 4. So we're not talking about an idea that's way off here in the future. We're talking about this happening in 4 years. That is really exciting. As a point of comparison, the university and college campus that's being built in Milton is going to have 2,500 students by 2034. That's half the student population we're talking about today, and they will reach that almost a decade after the University of Guelph-Humber in Brampton would have opened its doors. This opportunity will put Brampton light years ahead in what it wants to do with economic development, investing in its citizens, and it will put in place a key building block for your own 2040 vision. If we could go to supporting our students slide, please. I think it's really important to talk about the fact that our institutions both have very strong commitments to our students, both inside and outside the classroom. University of Guelph-Humber is no different. There is a holistic approach to supporting students, including looking at how campus fits into the realities of everyday life. We know housing affordability and supply is a key issue for this city. At University of Guelph-Humber, most students are commuters and many already live in the region, so we do not expect there to be a sudden influx or increased demand for housing. However, we want to ensure that students have options and that we're part of the solution to this ongoing challenge in Brampton, and we're committed to working with the private sector on the construction of student housing. We're also committed to ensuring a safe and meaningful experience for our international students. We are aware of the wider issues that the city and the region face. We're part of the Town and Gown Committee now, and we're really focused on how we can work collaboratively with organizations, other institutions, city staff, et cetera, to make sure that we address the challenges that people are facing and support them appropriately. Could you go to the next slide, please? So in terms of us coming back today to talk to you, this really goes back to June when this council unanimously supported us to enter conversations with city staff to explore how we could advance this opportunity. And since then, many, many hours of work have gone into identifying the required supports and business terms for the potential relocation and to confirm the design and the planning requirements for the campus within the CFI. We appreciate that you have to work with all levels of government and that provincial awareness and support is important. We continue to update the province on the potential relocation and the key timelines. Additionally, we've had several conversations with Minister Sarkaria and MPP Sandhu who have expressed their support for the relocation. As an established funded institution, the University of Guelph-Humber does not require any additional operating funding from the ministry to relocate. However, obviously this is a significant relocation, and so the ministry would like us to submit an application under the Major Capacity Expansion Framework, and we are able to do that quickly once we have any key approvals from Council. All major capacity expansion applications require explicit support from the host municipality, as well as a detailed business case. So that is why we need your support before we can move forward with that. Finally, we are very interested to continue the conversations around potentially rebranding, because we really understand the importance of putting a Brampton stamp on the University of Guelph-Humber and making sure that that conversation, which we know is of key importance to the city, continues.
And we understand that later today, city staff will be bringing forward a response to the technical requirements pertaining to our move. Our requirements are basically the same as they were when we came in council last June, with one significant difference, and that is the need for additional space. And that's additional space for the university to be a tenant of the city and to activate space for many years to come. We've had lots of detailed work and analysis with the layout, and we are asking for an additional 133,000 square feet beyond the size, and that's in order to make a dynamic downtown campus. So our first ask of council is to approve an increase to the planned footprint of the CFI to a minimum of 34,000 square feet. And the second is to direct city staff to help secure additional space in proximity to the CFI. And this increase in space will ensure that the city's new university campus will provide students with a premier educational experience and create opportunities for local employers to connect with the critical talent pipeline. And so the next step slide, please. Pending your decision, we look forward to continuing our ongoing and positive collaboration with city staff to further refine key details related to space requirements and design. So thank you so much for your time today. We are so excited by the opportunity here to be able to talk about the relocation of University of Guelph-Humber in its entirety and what that can mean for Brampton's residences, businesses, students, and its future. And really, together, we have the chance to make history, and this council has the opportunity to both make history and transform the city. So we're pleased to take any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for the delegation. I do see a couple of questions. Councillor Vicente?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, University of Guelph-Humber, for coming today. We too are really excited about the potential of this partnership that you are proposing and bringing to our feet here today. And I know that we had a deferral of one matter, so just to follow along with procedure as we do here when we receive delegations, aside from thanking you for coming here today, want to refer this to the May 11th meeting of council or committee so that we can continue this discussion and consider any other information that staff can provide us. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. And I have Councillor Fortini.
Sure. I heard to staff, did we enter negotiation with them? I kind of heard we did.
Through you, Madam Chair, no, we haven't entered a negotiation. We've talked about scenarios of placement of the university within the community, but no negotiations.
Okay. And my other question is to the delegates. We talked about the minister. So we have a proposal? Is that what we're hearing from the province?
So we would be submitting a major capital expansion proposal to the province following actually the council support and actually our board's processes as well. That's what's required from the province.
So we have to come up with something first and then we do the proposal, or we have to commit?
So
So under the major capacity expansion framework that the province released, it requires that there be explicit support of the host municipality, and that we will also need to, as the individual institutions that are submitting the application, have a detailed financial case as well as a business case. So in order for us to do that, we would need to make sure that we have the support, of course, of the council, and that we understand what the key terms of the relocation would be. We would need to take that back to our respective boards of governors as well, and then we would take that to the province. So again, we're able to prioritize, of course, and move quickly to put together that submission, and we have spoken with the Ministry of Colleges and Universities about putting in that submission and speaking to them about what that would entail and what they would specifically want to know in terms of labor market information and other details. So we can move on that quickly, but we need to have the explicit support first to be able to do that. And that's the case for any municipality, or sorry, any institution that would like to put in something under that framework.
Yeah, and my other question, so if we commit to this and the province says no, are we so liable because we committed to this?
I would defer that question to your staff to advise you, because we haven't entered any negotiations yet.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini, and I'm looking at the city solicitor, and I think he is speaking with the CEO at the moment. Just give us a second, Councillor.
So through you, Madam Chair, at this stage, and I believe in answer to your question, we don't have to enter into a binding agreement at this stage at all. So
Right. Okay,
it's our prerogative not.
Right, we don't want to tie our hands to say yes, and then they go there and they get nothing from the province, and we're committed to all this. So that's what, usually it's in the past, usually they get a proposal from the province, they come back, and then we work together.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Councillor Majeros.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So I appreciate the presentation, and I really have I've heard good things about the program. I think where I come from it, and what's lacking in the presentation, obviously we have to deal with it in camera, because all this sounds great, but you've probably been following what's been happening at the City of Brampton, and we're coming out of 4 years of no tax freeze. So 4 years of tax freeze. So this to me is almost a situation, it has nothing to do with you, it's really about us. It's really, what is the price tag to all this? And this is a conundrum I think many of us need to address, because it sounds great, and if I heard correctly too, and through you, Madam Chair, one thing is the CFI requirements, but you also said land adjacent to the CFI as well? Or space adjacent to the CFI? Is that also something you're looking for as well?
Yes.
So that would be other municipal property, or?
I think what we'd be looking to do is work with city staff to have space that identified, and then that space, of course, would be space that we would take on the responsibility for any fit-out costs or any of those kind of pieces. And I think the other thing here is that we're looking at a long-term lease situation, right? And so not just as an anchor tenant for the CFI, but a real opportunity, right, for, like decades-long lease, right, we're talking about for the city.
Yeah, and I think the challenge is, I know we're going to get into this in the report, through you, Madam Chair. The challenge is the capital costs. So we're pretty much in a difficult sort of context, and other colleagues of mine may have different sort of appreciation of economics or different appreciation of our finance at the city. But from a perspective of the core business that we have, because as much as we've been trying to support an education facility, similar to health, it's not a core competence of the city. It's really a provincial mandated responsibility. And you would hope that the province would sort of kick in sort of some support. Have you approached the province about what financial supports they would give for any type of expansion or move to Brampton? And then if, I guess from a political context, maybe I'm an amateur in this stuff, but if we see a provincial election that the Premier of Ontario is the local area rep, how do you deal with that? How does Doug Ford allow, a major, institution leave his community to come here? Like I would just, and I worked at Trinity Colleges University for like 8 years, so I kind of think that would be a difficult political context. So I'm just thinking that the timing, elections coming up, financially we have to understand, So I'm just trying to understand that, what talks have you had with the province in terms of some financial support?
Sure. So because we already have the operating funding, so this is a little bit different than other major capacity expansions that have happened recently. So this is one of the things that we think is a really innovative way for Brampton to get the university that it deserves. Because we all are aware, to your point about provincial politics, we're aware of the decision made a number of years ago by the province to originally cancel the planned expansions that were to happen. One of those was here in Brampton, and to come out and say that the province was going to only consider expansions that didn't require the province to put in additional capital investments. So subsequently, we've seen those expansions now come to pass in Markham and in Milton, but in neither case have the province put in additional capital funding for that. In some cases, they may have put in additional operating funding, but we don't require the additional operating funding because we already have that. So that's what makes this actually very unique about it. In terms of the timing, I appreciate you referenced the provincial election. We're not talking about putting in an application until after the provincial election, right? So I think that's something just to be aware of. And then in terms of the conversations about what does it mean in North Etobicoke, to your point about, okay, you're taking something out of North Etobicoke, but Humber has major plans for what would go into the existing facility where the University of Guelph Humber operates, including a major expansion of our Faculty of Health Sciences and Wellness, and a number of other pieces. So we have spoken about those with our local representatives, so they are aware of those plans.
And thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, and just out of my sort of understanding, because I know this program, when we talk about bringing university, this is a very sort of unique program. No other institutions offer this. And this is something unique. So it's not the fact that we have University of Guelph here. It's an exclusive. So if you can maybe expand, why is it so exclusive? Why other institutions don't offer that? And I think, the labor market information is going to be extremely important, because one of the challenges that we have is that, in my area, in my ward, I have Sheridan College, and notwithstanding in other places or other institutions, and there seems to be new programming. So some of, again, I'm not an expert, and nor, I think that we should be in this business in terms of identifying, who's offering what. But I just don't know how these programs would be complementary. So maybe just, if you can identify very quickly some of the features which is unique about this Guelph Humber concept and why other institutions don't have that ability to do so.
Yes, very pleased to. And you've heard us say this before through you, Madam Chair, that this program blends a university degree with a college diploma. And that is a very unique offering. Other universities have visited our operation and they have not been able to replicate it. And why? Because the partnership between two major institutions is that strong. And hence our partnership, as we're looking at it with Brampton, will be strong. It provides work integrated learning, outreach to industries. And we're looking to have those conversations with industry to understand what are those future needs of the workforce that they're going to demand. You've got major institutions coming, organizations coming to Brampton. Rogers, the latest announcement, they're going to need a skill set. And we're looking to be able to provide that, but we need to have those conversations. So a very unique offering today. 20 years ago it was offered. It's still a very unique offering. We're looking to expand to get into professional masters and micro-credentials. That is the future market of education going forward. To your earlier point around capital investments, I would like to add, we are a tenant. We don't, we're not owning land here. And we're not building. We are your tenant. It's a 50-year lease with a renewal. This is revenue for the city of Brampton. And when you're looking at other spaces, this is in buildings that we're hoping to have discussions with following your conversation with staff today, is what are those other spaces? And those spaces perhaps need, revitalization, which we will do. But this is also rental revenue. And then on top of that, you've got the $94 million that is coming forward in terms of the economic impact. And that's only on 5,000 students. We're projecting 6,000 by 2032. So significant impacts, positive impacts from a financial perspective, also from a pedagogical perspective in terms of what does the industry need in the Brampton area and the surrounding areas, and what new programs we need to bring on. I hope that answers.
Yeah, no, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. And I think one of the issues, going back to the premise of my question, is that we can't give away the farm for this. So we at the city, because of decisions we've made, and moving forward, we canceled 100 capital projects. So if we're going off and prioritizing, and definitely this is something we'd like to leverage, but at the end of the day, decisions that we make, we can't be supporting an area which is not our competency, and then after struggling to fulfill what residents, our responsibility is, which is, potholes, clean the grass, ensuring that we keep the city running, and we have our core priorities. And that is an internal discussion, and that's why I appreciate it. So that's why, when I said that sometimes it has nothing to do with, how great your program is, and I think the program is probably great. We just have to see the economics. We have a hospital. It's about prioritizing, and unfortunately, I'm open to the idea. I think it's a great. Thank you for looking towards our community for this. It's exciting. I know there's a great buzz, but there has to be sort of the economics around it, because I can sit here and just say that this is great. I'm going to jump all over it, but we got some sort of long-term financial discussions to have. And, so that is my concern. But other than that, point well taken regarding the revenue. It's an exciting program, exciting proposition. I do know a lot of Brampton students do commute to the institutions, and it would be great to revitalize our downtown. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Majeros. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. Just, maybe it's me, maybe I'm not understanding something. So we have not entered any negotiations.
No, we've had conversations back and forth, through you, Madam Chair. We've had conversations back and forth about what UGH's requirements would be, and we've looked internally to see how we can accomplish that. But there's 2 or 3 different options on the table, et cetera. So there's no formal negotiations here. There is a conversation as to requirements and needs.
Okay, and that's where I'm a little confused, because the closed session item, and Mr. Clerk, I'm allowed to say the closed session item had to do with Guelph Humber. The closed session item was based on plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on behalf of the municipality. We're not in any negotiations, so why would we have a closed session item?
So through
you, Chair Santos, just to clarify, that reason actually says carried on or to be carried on, so it could be contemplated. That's the way that section is, that exception is drafted.
Through you, Madam Chair, we also took the wording from previous council meetings back in 2000 and I believe 19, where those wordings were used. So as far as my perspective on this is, we're carrying on conversations, not negotiations for properties, et cetera, and that closed session report would have explained that further, without getting into any more detail.
Okay, so the issue that I'm seeing with this is that before we go into any closed session discussion, that maybe that's why it's been deferred, I don't know, but we have to agree to start an agreement before we can go into closed session about terms of any agreement we might be entering into. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe that closed session report is for we've took the information from Guelph Humber, we put that on the table, we took how the city could respond to that, and then we put it for council's review and decision on which direction we go.
Okay.
Without saying too much more.
No, I understand, and I'm just wondering why that would be in closed session. Since we have no agreement, there would be no letting loose any discussions, any special considerations that Guelph Humber or that the City of Brampton might be doing, because we don't have a negotiation. I'm just trying to follow this as to why we would have a closed session when we haven't had an agreement yet.
Through the chair, as has been mentioned by the clerk, the exception also applies to proposed negotiations. And the exception applies to a plan or strategy in relation to negotiations. And so it is not just valid, but it's also advisable for council to discuss their plans and strategies in closed session.
Okay, and can I just ask this question then? Are we under any binding agreement as of right now for any confidentiality agreements?
Through you, Madam Chair, there is a non-disclosure agreement, but for some of this, there is an agreement in there, and rather than to violate any aspect of that agreement, it would be more prudent to go and discuss it in close. And if council sees fit and the solicitor sees fit, we're more than happy to bring it back out. But with prudence, we'd rather go in closed on this one because the agreement is very general.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to make sure that, you know, what we do in closed is really what should be in closed, and what should be in open.
Point of order.
Should be in open, so
Point
that's
of
all.
order, Councillor Paleshi?
Yes, stay with the point.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Point of order?
Madam Chair, we seem to be debating the issue. We have 3 delegations that are standing at the podium. I think these are just questions of the delegations, this part of the meeting, and I believe this is also a referral or a deferral has also been placed on the floor already.
Thank you, Councillor Paleshi. So Councillor Bowman, any further questions for the delegates?
No further questions for the delegates.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Paleshi, for that reminder. I don't see any further speakers on the board. Just for clarification, Councillor Vicente, you're referring this presentation, what are you referring? Or deferring?
I believe, Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that the referral is for the presentation, the delegation, and correspondence from Guelph Humber University.
Thank you very much.
Confirm that that is the appropriate way forward.
Mr. Clerk, is that okay with you to be referred all those items to May 11th?
Yes, it's 2 items, the delegation and the correspondence, which is shown on the screen. And procedurally, the correct process is to defer it because it's going to Committee of Council on May 11th.
Okay. So anyone opposed to the deferral to Committee of Council on May 11th? Seeing none, that carries. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is government relations, and we have Andreas Hoffman from the CAO's office, who is here with a presentation for Committee on Government Relation Matters. Welcome, Andreas.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you.
We're just waiting for the presentation. This is not your presentation, I take it.
No, this is not the presentation.
There it is. All right, floor is yours.
That looks familiar. Again, good morning, Madam Chair, and I'd like to begin with an overview of the regional matters. The Regional Council is meeting tomorrow, April 28th. Next slide, please. We have reviewed the agenda and have engaged with relevant staff to review individual agenda items. Next slide, please. Item 8.1 is a staff report recommending a new regional appeal official plan for regional council adoption. We have previously flagged the new OP as it makes its way through the process, including deliberations at the Regional Planning and Growth Management Committee as well as council. City staff work closely with the region throughout the development of the new OP. Excuse me. The related item 11.2 is a staff report that speaks to several items referred back to regional staff for further consideration related to employment land conversions in both Mississauga and Brampton. City staff have no concerns with the report. Next slide, please. We also wanted to flag an item 14.2, which is correspondence from Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The letter indicates that as of March 31st, 2022, the Minister has activated the Disaster Recovery Assistance for Ontarians program, which provides assistance to eligible individuals, small businesses, and non-for-profits affected by natural disasters. In this case, the residents of Churchill community, which has been severely impacted by flooding, will be able to apply for assistance by July 22nd deadline. I would only point out that earlier this week, council members have received communication outlining additional resources and assistance for individuals looking to access this provincial program. Next slide, please. In provincial updates, we'll be closely watching tomorrow afternoon as the Finance Minister presents the 2022 Ontario budget. It is widely expected that the document will formulate the basis of government's election platform. As it has been a practice, the Public Affairs team will be providing members of council with a briefing note that will outline key elements of the budget, as well as provide initial analysis of impacts and potential implications to the city. Next slide, please. In federal updates, the Federal Minister of Transportation has outlined additional details of key measures to encourage switch to zero-emissions vehicles. I would only point out that the staff have already reached out to Infrastructure Canada to explore measures announced in the recent budget, as well as learn more about the funding and opportunities for electric vehicles infrastructure and other potential funding opportunities. Also, the Federal Minister of Health has announced signing of a safe long-term care fund agreement with the province. On the same day, the minister has met with Peel Medical Officer of Health. I would also point out that we have no updates from FCMR AMO this week. And lastly, I'd like to highlight that just yesterday, the Ryerson University Board of Governors has approved the university's name change. Moving forward, the university will be called the Toronto Metropolitan University. And this concludes this shorter than usual presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Andreas. Appreciate your presentation and the update from GR. We will be looking in anticipation for that provincial budget tomorrow. I don't see any questions from members of council. Seeing no questions. Mr. Clerk is letting me know that perhaps Councillor Dillon, you had a motion. Councillor Dillon, are you there? Okay. I don't see any questions, comments on the speakers list, so I have a motion from Councillor Bowman to receive the presentation from staff. Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. We are now going to move to Community Services section, and we are at before 11 o'clock today. Fantastic. I think everything was put into consent with the exception of added business. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk? So the next item is added new business from Councillor Fortini regarding the recreation centers of Victoria Park and Howden Rec Center. Councillor Fortini, are you with us online? Councillor Fortini? Okay. So perhaps we can, he's not here, so should we refer this perhaps to council next week, Mr. Clerk, if he's not here? Okay. Can someone refer this to council next week perhaps? Okay, referral to council meeting next week, referred by Councillor Singh. Anyone opposed? That carries. The next item is councillor question period. Do any councillors have any questions regarding this section of the agenda? Seeing none? Oh, Councillor Bowman, sorry. Councillor Bowman, a question.
Sure. We're moving along very quickly here, and we seem to have lost some of our members. So I just wondered about standing down Councillor Fortini's 8.3.1, since we will have to bring it back up at council next Wednesday anyways. So if we refer it, we're missing 2 more weeks, whereas if we just stand it down, we can bring it back up at council.
I think the referrals was for council next week.
Was for
Yeah.
for council? Okay, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
thought it was referred back to committee again.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
So
thank you.
are you okay with that, Councillor
Yes,
Bowman?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. No further questions from councillors. The next item, we're going to move to legislative services.
Point of order. This is Councillor Williams. I wrote in the chat that Councillor Dillon was having technical issues.
Okay, thank you for that point of order.
Stand down
Councillor
his
Dillon?
item.
Councillor Dillon, did you have something to add? Councillor Dillon?
Through you, Chair Santos, I don't think he's in the session at the moment.
Okay. Thank you for that point of order, Councillor Williams, but we are unable to reach Councillor Dillon at this time.
So, Chair Santos, I'm
Are
just
we then able to stand it down?
Stand what
Until
down,
he gets
Councillor
on?
Williams?
His motion that he was going to move
We're
earlier?
Yeah, and the challenge is we don't know what section that was for. We're currently at the end of community services.
Okay, hopefully somebody can help him resolve his technical issues, because I believe he did have something to bring forward earlier in the meeting.
Okay, so if we can have IT staff perhaps contact Councillor Dillon, and then in the meantime, I'm sure that members of council will entertain what he would want to add.
Sorry, Madam Chair, it's Councillor Dillon. Can you hear me?
Yes, Councillor Dillon. We
Sorry,
are
for
currently at community services question period.
Okay, can we get back to government relations after this?
We had already received the presentation from government relations earlier. Mr. Clerk, how would we go back to that item?
So through you, Chair Santos, our practice is to reopen the item, because Councillor Dillon's intent, I understood, was to introduce a motion under discussion of that item. So it could be a 2/3 vote to reintroduce the item after, and I suggest perhaps after we deal with the community services section.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Dillon, just give us a second to finish community services. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and apparently Councillor Singh said that he could take care of it for you during corporate services. Is that okay with you, Councillor Dillon?
Corporate services after this community services, is that correct?
Legislative services.
So I'm not understanding. Will we have to deal with it at corporate services now instead of immediately after community services?
So through you, Chair Santos, Councillor Dillon, my understanding is the item that you wish to discuss relates to the regional council agenda tomorrow. That should have, as I advised before the meeting started, you could do that during the government relations update. As we've passed that and moved on, as you were having technical issues, my advice is we finish the community services section, and then a motion could be introduced to reopen the government relations item, a 2/3 vote to allow you to introduce your motion.
After community services, right?
After community services section is completed, yes.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions regarding community services? Seeing none, we now would like to reopen the government relations section, which was passed earlier and received. Anyone opposed to reopening that section of the agenda? Seeing none, Councillor Dillon, you now have the floor.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for some strange reason. I was had some technical difficulties, but so tomorrow at the regional council meeting, we're going to be discussing the municipal comprehensive review, and as the regional councilors may know, and just for the information of the city councilors, there's a couple of blocks that one is in Ward 9 and 10, Mayfield Airport, which we've already had a charrette for, in which we're trying to build a complete community and kind of get a makeover done for the area in terms of focusing in on higher density housing. And so there's a section there that we've already been discussing at regional council. There's also a section in Councillor Fatini's ward, and Councillor Charmaine Williams' ward of 7 and 8, Humber West and the Gorley area. And so we're looking to get, we're going to move those forward at the region tomorrow. Just wanted to get the endorsement of it from committee today. Again, those areas, for example, on Gorley Drive, that complete block would allow to build, again, a more complete community, has a lot of access, so greater access to the Queen Street BRT. And so if you can get the motion on the board, it'll show the motion that we're going to be, Councilor Fatini and I will be presenting tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dillon. The motion is on the floor. Do members need some extra time to take a look at it further? I'll give you a minute. Okay. Any speakers to the motion on the floor? Taken as read. Anyone opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
So Chair Santos, that motion then will be communicated to the region after the meeting, but it is only a recommendation of committee. It is not a resolution of council yet.
Okay, thank you. So that is not a resolution of council yet. It's just a recommendation from committee as shared by the clerk. Do we need to receive the presentation again from Government Relations? Yes, motion to receive the presentation from Government Relations from Councillor Bowman. Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. And now we're over to Legislative Services. And before I hand it over to Chair Bowman, I just wanted to welcome Diana Seuss as the new Commissioner of Legislative Services. This is your first meeting. Welcome back. It's nice to see you. Thank you. Over to you, Chair Bowman.
Thank you very much. We now go on to Section 9. We have no staff presentations or reports. We had a staff report 9.2.1, the federal election that was in consent. That moves us on to 9.2.2, the staff report for asset naming that was referred from last week's council meeting to today. Staff recommendations number 3 and 5 were approved by council on April 20th, with the balance of the report being referred to today. We also have a new correspondence item 9.4.1 related to this item, which we can bring forward to consider. I held this. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or concerns before the chair speaks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I think in some conversations I've had with staff, particularly on the renaming of the streets and parkettes, Whitewash Way, Native Landing, Pilgrim Place, Whiteface Crescent, as well as the parkettes, Native Landing Parkette and Whitewash Parkette. In some conversations, if staff can comment if there will be a report regarding a more fulsome protocol and process in terms of renaming options for the parkettes and or the streets. I do understand that renaming streets in particular is very complicated, especially when we have to give notice to residents who live there. So staff can comment whether or not there will be something coming forward for us to consider, and if not, I'm happy to just refer this back to staff for a more fulsome look.
Through to you, Madam Chair, I believe there is a report coming back that's going to further explain the street naming, et cetera. And I will add that it's not only to the neighbors that it's an inconvenience to rename, it is very expensive. We've determined that it is very expensive to rename streets and takes a little bit of effort. So we'll come back with a report.
Okay, thank you very much, CAO. And so the parkettes are a different issue though, right? So the parkette renaming is possible. Currently we have 2 parkettes, Native Landing Parkette and Whitewash Parkette. From our community in Ward 5, where these 2 parkettes are located, many residents have complained about the names of these parkettes. Does the renaming of those parkettes in particular have any complication to it?
I'll ask Acting Commissioner Parks to speak on that.
Through the chair, I think that, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would be more simple. I'm not sure about with fire, whether that's an issue, whether they base their response on location or park at name, that sort of thing. So we still need to go through some of those logistics. We've got the CAO's office is working on collecting some of that information and helping us. And then the plan is to bring a report back to committee.
So there will be a report coming back. Perfect. Thank you very much. And so then I will just also ask that when the report comes back, that we involve the Equity Office and Michelle Byrne as well for that EDI lens in the renaming process, and also involving members of the Indigenous community from Peel Region.
We can do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. Councillor Singh.
I just noticed, I noticed it before, I forgot. It's not, one of the names is spelled incorrect. You got it, Batwinder, Bellwinder? Okay, perfect.
That's been found and it's being corrected. It is correct online, but in the report it's misspelled. My apologies.
Thank you, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think last council we were talking about the Italian Park, and we were supposed to...
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer that. So yes, there was a discussion in 2019. I went back and looked. I think you had raised it about addressing an Italian Heritage Park. The motion was introduced and then withdrawn because there was a pending report. So I have added it to the list, so it will be considered in the future when a report comes back with the other parks that are on the list.
Yeah, and I remember we had some meetings on it, that's why. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Willens?
Yes, thank you, through chair. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is coming back because I had sent some street names for consideration in some new areas, particularly in the Huttonville area, of some actually lifelong residents and former owners of the property. I believe Alan Parsons sent me back ones that could be accepted. But I didn't see them on the list, so I'll resend that or correspond with Alan. Also, can we add it now? I'd like to look at naming a facility or something in the Mount Pleasant area as after former Councillor John Hutton, specifically in the Mount Pleasant, because he was very pleased of the relocation of the historic train station and the rec center there now, and as well the square. So if we can have something added there for consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Willens. I don't think we have any other speakers, so request the chair be heard since I held this item. Thank you very much. I'm glad this is being referred back to staff for a number of reasons, actually. I had a number of individuals approach me with more names that they would like to see changed on streets. They said they found them offensive in one way or another. I also would like to mention that some of the street names, oh, Mike, should I be talking to you? Some of the street names in the little chart we had were not recommended because we have a walk of fame, for example. So some of the people who are recommended for street names are already designated in our walk of fame. There's other people on this new list that are not in the walk of fame that will most certainly be in the walk of fame at some point. So I just want to flag that. And the same holds true, in my estimation anyways, for the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame. We recognize a lot of people, many people in the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame, but we also have names for athletes in this list of renaming for streets and parks. So I think we need to develop a protocol for that. You know, if we're designating the Sports Hall of Fame as the official place to recognize local athletes, and we're designating the Walk of Fame as a place to recognize performance and artistic talent in the city, then we should be looking at that in terms of all the new names that we're looking at on this list. And just because they're not in those particular halls of fames or walk of fames yet, the opportunity is there for them to be in there. So will the reverse hold true? And if we name a street after them, will the Sports Hall of Fame say, no, they've already been recognized with a street name, for example? So I think we need to somehow come up with a protocol for those particular individuals. Can that be part of the report that comes back?
Through you, to you, Mr. Chair, absolutely, we can look at that, and we'll have to look historically where that sits as well, because we will have that certainly previous crossover between two, where they're named on both, or named on one, and moving forward, how we detangle that. So we will look at it, absolutely.
Okay. And that was it for me. I just wanted to make sure that we had coordination and we had an actual protocol that says, you know, an athlete will be honored in our Sports Hall of Fame, for example. So I just wanted to clear that up. So maybe the director of the Sports Hall of Fame or the chair there needs to be involved in the conversation as well. And that is it for me. So we have more people on the board now. Councillor Fortini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we look at the name of the, do we know when this report's coming back? Do we have any idea?
It will take us, through you, Mr. Chair, it will take us a little bit of time to readjust the report that we have draft.
Okay, thank you. So, you know, I'm looking at all these parks and the naming and all, like we did all these councillors. I think, you know, if we're going to do for one, we should do all. So I think, can you add, I'd like to add something for Councillor Miles and Elaine Moore. We have everyone on the list. Might as well put the last two people on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fortini. Councillor Singh.
Don't we already have, you bring up a good point, but I think we already have athletes who are recognized in the Sports Hall of Fame and have assets named after them. So if we've already opened it up, I just wouldn't want it to restrict others going down that lane. So I'll wait for the report. It is an interesting point, but I think we already went down that road, and that's going to be sort of the challenge. It might put people at an unfair disadvantage, but I'll wait for the report.
Okay. And sorry, last thing I forgot to mention when I had the floor was, is there a protocol for when a person can be named or when a street can be named? Because I think we've seen in other jurisdictions, maybe this one, where we name a street after someone who may be 50 years old today or 60 years old today, and something happens 5 years down the road that people get up in arms about, and then we have to look at, do we take that name off? So can we come up with something more concrete? Does a person have to be dead? Can we come up with something a little more viable so that we are not put in a position in the future where we have to look at renaming something?
To you, Mr. Chair, we're just trying to go through the variations in our heads. We can absolutely look at it and try to respond to your point.
Okay, thank you very much. So referral is on the floor. Is there any objections?
I'm on the board again.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Willens.
Yeah, just quickly to your point through you, Chair, about the people on the Walk of Fame. I think I saw Scott Thompson's name on there for street naming. And I mean, if we've got other people that aren't eligible to be street naming, I mean, Scott, I mean, he's a good friend of mine, but you got to make it equal for everybody because he is in the Hall of Fame, Walk of Fame. So I don't, maybe Scott can look at that, unless it's a different Scott Thompson, but I don't think it is.
Thank you very much, Councillor Willens. Councillor Paleshi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just by way of our last council meeting where we had a separate vote on this report and one particular item, I think it was 5A, it's through you, Mr. Chair, to the clerk, is that still a separate vote that's going to be taken?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so staff recommendation 3 and staff recommendation 5 were approved by council last week, so those are now council resolutions for implementation. So the balance of the report is here. So with the referral back, it's referring back effectively the balance of the report for further consideration and report back. But council did decide on those matters last week.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So, seeing no other speakers, we have a motion of referral moved by Councillor Santos. Seeing no objections, that carries. Thank you very much. I believe that moves us on to 9.3, new business. 9.3.2, brought up by Councillor Fortini regarding the shelter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think last week, Councilor Bowman asked about the animal shelter. Did we provide a number or a project number or something?
Through the chair, we did provide an update to Councillor Bowman after his request last week.
You and I have a meeting this week.
And we have and Councillor Bowman and I have a meeting to talk about it.
Is there a number?
Sorry, what?
He asked in council, there was a number or something that we were supposed to provide or something?
Project number.
Project number. So do we?
Yes, there is a project number.
Okay.
I'm
I'm sorry. So I didn't know you were having a discussion with him. That's fine. I'll leave it like that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fortini. So that takes care of that. Do we have any councillors' questions for anything discussed today? Seeing none, anyone on the board, Mr. Fay?
There's none, Mr. Chair, but we have correspondence 9.4.1, so I wasn't sure if that was part of the referral to staff. It was regards to the asset naming for streets and parks, or did you just want to receive that correspondence?
No, that should also be part of the referral back to staff. Thank you. The correspondence. Okay, and any questions from the public for public question period?
There are none.
There are none. Okay, thank you very much. That completes legislative services. We will move on to economic development and Chair Medeiros.
Thank you. I don't see any reports. I think there's a councillor question period. Any members of committee have any questions? I see none. Public question period, any members of the public? There are no questions. So I believe I'll hand it over to corporate services to Chair Singh.
Thank you. Moving on. Staff presentations, 11.1.1 is a staff presentation regarding film office update. I believe it'll be presented live. Thank you.
Through the chair, thank you. We'd like to start with our presentation, and Michael Ciaffini is on the line. I'm sorry he couldn't be with us here in person today to present, but before he does that, I'd just like to congratulate him formally for such an outstanding year in 2021. As you'll see, I think we broke many records in terms of the number of days filming here, in terms of revenue, in the 8 years since the the Film and Television Office has existed. So I'll hand it over to Mike to do the presentation. Mike, are you there?
Yes, through the chair. Thank you, Laura. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. Pleased to provide this committee council with an update on film and television production for last calendar year. Next slide, please. And we'll go over the provincial film landscape, the impact to Brampton, including local economic impact, highlight the productions that filmed in Brampton, and go over many of the initiatives the Film and TV Office has done to meet the recommendations of the Film Services feasibility study from 2020. Next slide, please. As you see here, Ontario had a record-breaking year of film activity and economic impact in 2022. There was a record of 394 productions, which contributed $2.88 billion to the provincial economy in 2021, which is an increase of 92% from 2020, first COVID year. If you include commercials and broadcaster in-house production, which the specific data is not captured by the province, but its estimated contribution to the Ontario economy is $4 billion. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. This provincial impact did translate to a record year of filming activity in Brampton, of course, and in 2021, we hosted 80 different film and TV commercial productions companies over 553 days of filming activity, which also includes filming days, principal photography, prep and wrap, and hold days. This resulted in a 90% increase from 2020. Of course, having multiple productions in the city at the same time does account for the overlap in film activity days. Likewise, inquiries to the film in Brampton shot up and doubled from 2020 due to the COVID-19 shutdown in 2020, but it is important to note that inquiries increased from the last full year of filming in 2019. Next slide, please. And when productions apply for a filming permit to the city, they must indicate their estimated spend in Brampton. Here you can see the estimated spend from 2018 to 2021. And we saw tremendous growth of productions filming on location, but there was also a steady use of converted studio space and temporary standing sets. The draw of large US-based studio productions and streamers such as Netflix, Amazon, Apple, they contributed to the significant increase of the economic impact estimates in 2021. City revenue captured does increase when filming activity is higher. However, the Film and TV Office has identified areas where further revenue opportunity for the city can be captured, and we look forward to working with departments to formalize those fees. Next slide, please. And now I'd like to go over some of the production highlights for 2021. We had productions that filmed in studio in Brampton, and the first is Amazon's Prime Video's new series Reacher, which is based off of the famous Lee Child novels. It filmed in studio and on location in Brampton as well. The series can be watched right now on Amazon. The new Paramount Plus Star Trek spin-off series, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, filmed on a virtual production studio over 100 days in an industrial warehouse in Brampton. Digital production studios are the future of filmmaking, combining physical production with digital backdrops that use gaming engines to create many different worlds. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds premieres next week, May 5th, on Paramount Plus. Dufferin Gate Studios location at 1000 Steeles Avenue East hosted the Netflix feature film 13 the Musical over 30 days. And the film also filmed on location over 20 days in many parts of the city from June to August of 2021. And they included in residential neighborhoods of Royal Orchard, St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, and the CAA Center grounds. The film is in post-production and does not have a release date as of yet. And as you can see, when productions film in studio in Brampton, productions are eager to film nearby on location. This helps keep the production's transportation and environmental impact to a minimum. And on location, some highlights I would like to include are Apple Plus's post-apocalyptic TV series C, which stars Jason Momoa and David Bautista. They built a standing village set in Clairville Conservation Area in 2020 and filmed well into 2021. Season 2 is now streaming, but no details for Season 3 have been announced. And another first, Apple Plus TV series with the working title Zone, digitally mapped out Mount Pleasant Village's square and filmed 3 location days on site. This is actually pretty exciting because Mount Pleasant Village is technically outside of the industry labor union zones, indicating that productions by streamers and large studios are seeking high quality locations and willing to spend the time and money to film in those areas. This is a trend that is boosting many jurisdictions across the province. And lastly, just a quick update on Man from Toronto that stars Kevin Hart, Woody Harrelson, that filmed in 2020 in Brampton. The film is, we've learned that the film will be released theatrically in August of this year, and will be playing on Netflix following its theater run. Next slide, please. The film and television production industry is quite different than most other industries and requires a different sort of attention when it comes to Brampton. Film and TV production can be fast-paced and requires quick decisions regarding availability of facilities and facilitating the submission for permits, including road occupancy permits, building and temporary structure permits, special effects or pyrotechnic permits, and working with Peel Region and Peel Regional Police. The Film and TV Office want to thank our colleagues in the many departments that support the industry for the flexibility and willingness to collaborate as we work to efficiently meet the needs of the industry. Next slide, please. And staff will continue their relationship with Ontario Film Commission through Ontario Creates. We have weekly calls with the Commissioner featuring updates on COVID-19 guidelines as they constantly are changing. We get reports from LA and Toronto-based scouts regarding upcoming production location and stage space needs, and the opportunity to share best practices with counterparts across Ontario. The Film Location Library, which Ontario Creates maintains, is a digital library that scouts and location managers use to indicate which locations are good to film in. The City of Brampton, with the assistance of funding from FedDev last year, we did add 6 more locations to the file, increasing the number of city-controlled filming locations in the database to 50. Staff also assisted many owners, managers of non-city facilities to be represented in the library, introducing Wet and Wild, among others, to the opportunity last year. Ontario Green Screen, we partnered with them in 2020, the end of 2020, and we work with 22 other industry and government partners in the OGS initiative. It serves as a one-stop resource for up-to-date industry information and resources on sustainable initiatives in the film and TV industry. The Circular Innovation Council acts as the program management team, which launched the initial strategic plan on Earth Day of 2021. We've been working across departments to identify opportunities to implement various strategies, such as the newly launched Grid Tie-in Mapping Tool, which identifies locations across the province where productions can source clean energy to help alleviate the need for many noisy and dirty generators while filming in the city. We are working with various departments to identify these tie-in locations and have included film production on the list for future access to grid power in the downtown. Staff will continue to collaborate with OGS to identify projects that are appropriate for the City of Brampton. In 2021, the 11th Annual Regional Film Forum, we participated in that in May of 2021, and sessions included a review of available tax credits, COVID-related impacts, and the future of digital production, environmental initiatives, workforce development, and more. There will be no regional film forum this year, but industry representatives have been will be present on our weekly calls to update regions across the province. Next slide, please. And at the end of 2021, we started working with our friends at ACEDA for new initiatives, including hosting a series of focus group discussions at the beginning of this year with Brampton filmmakers and digital creators in the city to better understand the barriers independent producers are having to filming and gathering in Brampton. Attendance has been steady, and discussion topics have included, just to name a few, access to city space for filming, and networking, and the importance of funding through the city and other programs and levels of government. And then in response to early focus groups, the Brampton Film and TV Office and ACEDA came together to present a successful in-person screening and discussion night on National Canadian Film Day this year, last Wednesday, April 20th, at the Brampton Entrepreneur Center. We had over 50 attendees, including emerging and experienced talent in the industry. The event featured short film screenings from successful Brampton filmmakers Sasha Lee Henry and Kelly Fife Marshall. This was the first in-person screening of Kelly's film Ami, which won a special grand jury recognition prize at the South by Southwest Film Festival in January of this year. Films submitted by filmmakers to screen at the event were curated Brampton filmmakers chosen screened their completed films and works in progress, and they then led discussions following their screening around themes on story and character development, production and post-production technical approaches. Brampton Film and TV Office will continue working with ACEDA with the goal to empower Brampton-based filmmakers and content creators to meet, network, and collaborate on initiatives. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time today. We look forward to providing future updates as work continues to increase film and TV production in Brampton. Look forward to any questions.
Thank you. First question goes to Councilor Medeiros.
Through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Michael and the team, I've heard some great things about working with our staff, especially in this department, through some local producers, and especially during COVID, they said that we were, they were really impressed with staff support. Interesting enough as well, I got to visit a couple of studios, and I was floored, studios which are being used for Netflix in my ward. It was just amazing to me to, it seemed to seem like, you see these major sort of productions right here in our backyard. And just before I get to my question, lastly, also kudos to communication, because I love the sort of tweets and the social media when there's the filming going on and we're letting our residents know that this is happening here. So, great stuff from communications doing that. And it would be great. And I guess my question to you, Michael, in terms of, is there a way that we can, one is to promote, from an economic sort of trying to attract more investment, how do we sort of promote us as a destination for filming, commercials, all that stuff? Can we do more? Or, so if we, from a budgetary perspective, and I know, not anticipating budget discussions, but can we be more aggressive in this area, seeing that we're seeing some, good activity in the city?
Through your chair, to Councillor Pleshy, we can do more. Of course, that's it's an attraction piece that that we would have to put a lot more budget to, of course. And I might want to defer to Laura for more insight on that. But what we do is work with Ontario Creates to identify locations that are needed, and of course, when there are opportunities for investment or land, occupancy of land, that kind of thing, we do work with other departments to identify potential possibilities. So we don't let things fall through the cracks when they come to our office. And just to answer your question more, we can do more, but there are some limitations to what we're doing currently.
Through the chair, I'll just add that the film office right now is it's set up basically to permit filming on city facilities, to assist with filming on non-city facilities. So as Michael mentions, it would be an expansion in terms of the offerings through the Film and TV office.
So, and through you, Chair, so to understand, so it's the permitting aspect. So in terms of, I guess, attraction and so on, that's just happening organically, sort of in the private sector, or is that what's happening in terms of entrepreneurs getting in that area? Like, how do we sort of support attracting these or doing that? Just trying to understand our role.
Right. Through the chair, currently, as Michael mentioned, we do have a number of locations, 50, I believe, as part of the Ontario Creates library, and I can tell you from having spoken to different production groups that those pictures, those photos are referenced frequently, and we also, as Mike said, are on a weekly call with the Ontario Film Commissioner, and we're hearing what's coming to the province of Ontario, GTHA, and there are opportunities through that for us to put Brampton forth as a possibility for filming.
Okay, so it's a lot of it, and through you, Mr. Chair, a lot of it is an internal process. You have that relationship with the province, and then you guys see what type of, I guess, what we put forth as options for consideration.
Through the chair, correct.
And through you, Mr. Chair, last question. do we have any, I guess, with the post-secondary education, with post-secondary schools or even high schools, because I know sometimes I've seen students at Gage Park do little films and little that stuff. Do we have any connection with, like, do we leverage some of the stuff that's happening and try to, connect with the local, high schools and local programs and even offer sort of opportunities if their students want to sort of come to City Hall or come to some of our recreational facilities to do some of their films or commercials or whatever they want to do, yeah.
Through the chair, that's an excellent question. Thank you. So there are a number of things. As Mike mentioned, we have just created, in partnership with ACETA, a Brampton Filmmakers Focus Group with a number of youth who participate in that program, and we're looking for it to expand and continue. We are having some discussions with Dr. Janet Morrison from Sheridan College regarding film and some of the facilities that are available through Pine Tree Studios in Toronto. So yes, we are looking to that, but what we're here today really to ask for is permission to go ahead and work with the departments here to establish some film rates so that there is an affordable opportunity for youth and Brampton filmmakers who are just starting out, who are, they haven't hit the big time yet, to be able to afford to film on Brampton facilities. So what we're asking for is permission to talk to departments to see how we can put together a structure for film fees at the city. And one of the recommendations that came from the Film Services feasibility study was really that concierge service, so that when a production crew comes to Brampton, that they have a single point of contact and that we can provide them everything that they need and really facilitate them coming to Brampton more efficiently. And another part of that is being able to provide them with one invoice. So currently, if you're a production crew coming to Brampton, you may get 3 or 4 invoices depending on the number of city departments that you're interacting with. So we're looking to streamline that, and we're asking, as I say, for permission to look at film fees specific to potentially 3 different categories. So very large film productions, sort of those medium-sized ones, and then something for very small productions, which could be youth and Brampton citizens.
Yeah, no, and through you, Mr. Chair, and if that's, I'm not sure, you need formalized direction, or is that something internally? Because I'm happy to move it if that's the direction.
Looking for support from council to be able to have those discussions.
Yeah, I'm happy to move it, and city clerk, whatever. I don't know if you need a council resolution. Isn't it internal discussions with departments? Yeah, so.
Through the chair, it was just outside of the Film Services feasibility study, so just wanted to come and update you on the work that we're doing internally to make the process more efficient.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and again, really appreciate it, and it was a surprise to me how, bumping into these studios, and they're pretty large productions, and one thing from just from an economic development perspective, some of the warehouses or areas which are being underutilized, maybe that sort of be put forth as sort of ideas that for consideration, seeing that we're sort of creating some of this hub. But this is great, and communications, please keep sharing those good stories, productions, everything that's going on in the city. It's really good news. Thank you very much.
And through the chair, just one more point. We are working with the Ontario Film Commission to get a better handle on how we calculate the economic impact of film production, specifically in Brampton. So it's a little bit of a beast, but we are working to get those numbers to share.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just for councillors, we'll also be discussing staff report 11.2.1 as well. I don't see anybody on my board, but is there anybody on? Okay, Councillor Williams first, and then followed by Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Hi, Michael and Laura. Great presentation. So exciting to see Brampton being a central place and an exciting place for film to happen here. Just wondering if we have had any kind of negotiations to have Brampton's recognition and the credits of some of these films, or the City of Brampton logo to be added to some of the, those aspects of, the end of the film where you see all the information going up around, production crew and so on and so forth. Has those type of conversations happened with some of these production crews?
Through the chair, Michael, can you provide some detail there? Certainly it is something that we have discussed, and there is the potential to include that as part of their contractual agreements with the city in terms of renting space. But Mike, if that has happened, can you give us a couple of examples, please?
Yeah, sure. Through the chair, to Councillor, yeah, we have done that. We've worked with various productions when there's requests to use Brampton facilities or different property at zero cost. We've worked with productions such as there's a CBC GEM series called 410, which is based partially in Brampton, and they included the city and the city's logo in the credits as a thank you. And that's common for a lot of independent types of productions when they're typically paying for the space and for use of all their services. It's usually not something that we would ask for, but in the rental agreements that we enter, that can be added case by case.
Thank you. I think that would be really great to have it added. The community does communicate with each other, and when they see that a good relationship has been had with Brampton, it could encourage others as well to, give us a call and look at our spaces as an opportunity for their films. And then also it's just really cool to have Brampton mentioned at the end of some of these films. And then that way, people who in Brampton who are watching them, they can say, oh yeah, that was in Brampton, that backyard, that did look familiar, you know what I mean? But overall, I think if we can encourage that kind of piece in the negotiations, I think it would be a positive thing for the city. And overall, I think it's great that we are looking at streamlining this whole process and just seeing how much more benefit we can get through some of these productions. And I also appreciate the communication with residents. I know we've had some residents concerned with some of the explosions that happened at Clairville, but there's been good communication, and especially communication with our council office to be able to make sure our residents do get the information. So that's also just something to flag. It's important that we know if there are some areas that could be impacted or residents could be impacted, we would be able to provide that information as well, or have that on our websites or whatever it may have you, to help people be aware that it's not a shooting, it's a film crew and so on and so forth. But overall, Michael, thanks so much, and Laura, great work, and I'm looking forward to seeing Brampton in more films and being able to pick out different landmarks when I'm watching Netflix. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Councillor Pleshy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll continue to offer up the kudos to the team, Michael and Laura, and the entire film team. I think I've said it before, you're doing some fantastic work. I hope that the conversations with trying to attract, maybe not through your office, but as a city as a whole, trying to get maybe Apple or somebody else to have a head office here in Brampton, I think is definitely a possibility, and we have those future conversations. Michael, you've been very nimble in what you've been able to accomplish given what you've had, and I've asked for, many years ago I was asking for more support and more opportunities to be put into the office, and coming here today and telling us that we would like to offer a concierge service. And if that's what you're asking, if that's what you need, then I fully support that. What I don't want to happen is for us to turn this out of, I feel like the film office runs very, very private, privatized within the public realm, and I don't want to make it public. But if what Laura and Michael you're here asking for is a better one-on-one relationship or a one-stop shop through the city of Brampton with this concierge service, then, and I think that's what I need to hear, then I'll definitely support that.
Okay, was that a question or?
Yep, I need to hear it.
Yeah, I thought that was, yeah.
Through the
just
chair,
thought-
yes.
Yes.
Yes, Councillor Palashi.
Laura has said yes.
Good, I'm glad, and, I do look forward to, making this bigger and better, and we all know that there's tons of locations right across the city of Brampton that have been utilized and can continue to be utilized. Have we started looking into opportunities of any warehouse or bigger empty space within the city of Brampton for the film industry to be able to use?
Through the chair, Councillor Palashi, we did look quite seriously at the Siemens property, but that did not actually work in the end. The production was looking for a far larger space. We do work with a few of the production studios in the city, but we ourselves have not looked at available warehouse space for possible film production.
Okay, and then compared to Toronto and what they offer their film office, it'd be good to, I think, for council to be able to see what the difference is in terms of where we are, what we offer, where they are, what they offer. With them, I think they just grabbed Netflix. Netflix head office is moving to Toronto, and I think that they invested into some warehouse space for filming. Laura or Michael, can you speak on that?
Through the chair, I think certainly when you compare Toronto to any city in the province that is doing filming, they're at the top in terms of what's available. So we certainly have goals for our city and film production here. We have a little ways to go. Michael, do you have any comments on that, please?
Through the chair, so City of Toronto does enter into agreements and partnerships with different developers. The docks is being developed into a big film hub in Toronto. But of course, they do have multiple staff, the development staff as well as permitting staff as well.
Okay, and I realize Toronto's at, the top of the tops, but that doesn't, just because of their size and where they're located, I think we have a lot more to offer, because Brampton's so much better than Toronto. So, I think I would like an opportunity for us to, deeper dive into the film office and really, and I've said this before, push the promotion of our film office. What do we need to be at that top level? Where does somebody like Toronto sit? Where do we sit? What are the differences? I think is something that I would like to see on paper, maybe in the future. And then in terms of, the Bollywood and Nollywood, the amount of filmings that are happening here in the city of Brampton, and I think more so than, actually Councillor Santos and I just met a film producer not too long ago that is looking for more opportunity in Brampton as well. So, and good discussions with that gentleman, and maybe we can make that connection. But how can we essentially grow this through the, not only the film industry or the Western film industry, but also the Bollywood and Nollywood.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Palashi. I just want to state that streamlining our internal processes, I think, is the foundation that we're looking to complete building so that we can go forward and attract more production crews to Brampton. it's really in the end a very small world. As Councillor Medeiros mentioned, he had spoken to some folks who were quite pleased with their experience here in Brampton. So we want to be able to keep that level of customer service top notch, so that more people will hear through word of mouth, will experience through their own time here in Brampton, and realize that yes, there's something really great in Brampton, and then we have a supply and demand issue as well.
That's what essentially we want, Laura, is that supply and demand issue. And when I look at this next report, 11.2.1, when we start talking about the film rates as an industry, the best thing for us right now, because we're really growing so fast, is that word of mouth, to get that out there, get that out in the industry, and have the buzz about Brampton and the opportunities and that one-stop shop concierge service, and then everything else. To me, the rates kind of trickle down and come in later. So if and I'm happy to move that report, but I do want that to come back to council once you've gone through the departments and you're thinking about what rates that we're going to set. And especially when we're talking about students, I don't know what rates they would pay now to use a space. So when you come to council to say we want to make sure that we have rates for students to make it cheaper for them, well, I don't know how much they pay now. So if we can have that, this film updates and rates once you've worked out all of the inner things in the city of Brampton that come back to council, I would appreciate that.
Through the chair, we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
see.
Chair.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, and I see Councillor Santos.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for this presentation and the report and the fantastic news about a booming film interest here at the City of Brampton. This has been brought up in the past where Councillor Bowman had asked where our investments are in the arts, what the economic impact is in the arts, and that does include film as well. And in some of the conversations, just in follow-up to what Councillor Paleshi was saying, some of the conversations I've had in terms of understanding the film industry is that at the City of Brampton, we have Michael and your team who deal with the permit process and just processing permits, et cetera, but then there's also, as some of my councillors had shared, an industry sector, cultural, creative sector, investment sort of attraction process as well, and that actually is within economic development. In the same way that we're trying to attract business investment from around the world and other sectors, economic development plays an important role in telling everyone else the creative industry, such as film, such as performing arts, such as our talent that we have here, exists in the city, and why we're worthy to invest in. So perhaps, I guess, and I'm not asking for a report on this, etc., but I'm wondering if staff can take a look at what that looks like in terms, as we have ACETA coming up to share an update, as we have the Performing Arts Strategic Plan coming forward, we have this film update as well. There's something buzzing around arts and culture now in Brampton, and I think with those moving parts, there's an opportunity to seize the economic impact in all of that, and perhaps that requires resources in economic development in order to support potential business investment in that developing sector in Brampton. And so, Laura, if you could comment, and I know Michael Vickers, you're coming to present on ACETA next, but and I know Stephen Schipper is here as well. There is something happening, brewing, and there's some economic impact that we can seize as an opportunity as all this is happening.
Through the chair, absolutely. And as I said, we want to be able to ensure that as a permitting office that we can manage the folks that are coming in and provide top-notch customer service. So the next couple of months, our focus is going to be on that concierge service, on the rates and fees, and then broadening and moving out from there. So it certainly is on the radar.
Thank you. And as we have all of these moving pieces within the arts, creative, culture industry, moving forward, if there is an opportunity for us to do something and have economic development support to promote our buzzing and booming sector in arts and culture, that's, I think, something to think about in the future as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Santos. I don't see any other questions, so I'll have a motion moved by yourself to receive 11.1.1 and a motion moved by Councillor Medeiros to approve the recommendations of staff report 11.2.1. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, those motions carry. Moving on, we have 11.1.2 is a staff presentation regarding Arts, Culture, and Creative Industry Development Agency program update. I believe that is Mr. Vickers. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Chair and Council. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Vickers. I'm Senior Program Lead of the Arts, Culture, and Creative Industry Development Agency. I'm largely here today to say a huge thank you for your continued support and to shed a little bit of light on the impact that we've managed to have together over the last year, really detailing a lot of the information that can be found in our end-of-year report that you'll each be receiving a hard copy of. Slide, please. Just to give a little bit of background and sort of a reminder on how we got to where we are here today. Back in 2020, prior to the pandemic, Council endorsed an arm's length organization, ACIDA, the Arts, Culture, Creative Industry Development Agency, to really kickstart the creative economy in Brampton. We're a vital partner in the development and execution of the Culture Master Plan and its key themes supporting success, developing a creative community of practice, and building Brampton's identity. And it's really exciting to see in the previous presentation from Laura and Michael how where we are, to Councillor Santos's point, seeing this momentum now happening. And I do think that our work has been a key part of that. Along with bringing the Culture Master Plan to life, we're addressing term of council priorities, and we're currently in the first phase of our incubation, which was in 2021 and 2022. Phase 2 will be this transition to independence, and then at the end of 2023, moving into 2024, we'll become a fully independent not-for-profit. This work is particularly important in the current moment as we move into recovery through the pandemic, and the arts as a tool to attract and retain skilled, talented workforce and also visitors. One thing that I think you just touched on, Councillor Santos, is our ability to attract dollars, frankly, to Brampton. The average arts and culture tourist in Ontario spends twice as much as other tourists, and I think that there really is a moment right now to continue snowballing the impact that we're having. Slide, please. So just to quickly go through some of the different elements that are detailed in the report. And looking back at 2021, we managed to expedite our incubation goals and developed a very thorough work plan that we were moving through extremely quickly, hired staff, myself as the senior program lead, and formed our advisory panel chaired by Navi Sidhu, who's an extremely involved community member and passionate advocate of the arts. We delivered 78 workshops, events, and programs last year, over 2 a week, and had several hundred artists out and about in the city engaging in our programming. Huge amount of public participation, along with multiple partnerships locally, provincially, and beyond. Sorry, Councillor Paleshi just popped up there. We were also able to contribute to the COVID Recovery Fund, which is a really unique program in which we were able to offer $100,000 towards supporting 77 local artists to move into recovery and to continue practicing as artists here in Brampton. Through some of our research, we found 96% of respondents said that they gained a new insight or perspective thanks to our programming, which for me is particularly important, showing that we are opening people's eyes to the power of the arts and resources that we can offer. And we've also seen over a triple increase rate for our arts and culture newsletter as we work to share the amazing impact that community organizations are having. Next slide, please. Key part of work last year was also the development of the Big Brampton Artist Space Survey. One thing that I've heard a great deal from the community, and I'm sure you all have as well, is the need for more creative space across Brampton. As we spoke just now about vacant warehouses, different spaces like that. How can we really utilize what we already have to support the creative sector? We had roughly 200 respondents, with 70% of individual artists responding saying that they had no access to creative space whatsoever in Brampton, and 0% of organizations responding as very satisfied with the current availability of space. Affordability is the number one barrier to access here, as it is across the province, given the current moment. And the situation is far more difficult for young Black, Indigenous, and artists of color. How do we tackle this? In collaboration with the team in culture and cultural services, we are now currently developing a creative space action plan targeting how can we, in the most meaningful, most urgent manners, sort of address this crisis for creative space. We'll be sharing the results of the survey with the public in the coming weeks, and then involving them in our plan moving forward, which will include the launch of the Arts Hub Civic Center space, developing a space inventory for the community, mapping what services we do have, and better understanding the gaps, and we invite as much collaboration as possible in this work. Next slide, please. Now in 2022, it's already become an even more impactful year for our organization. As I mentioned, I was previously the only full-time staff member. We've now grown to a team of 3 with the addition of Katie Belshaw as programming coordinator and Gardenia Flores as audience development and marketing coordinator. Our attendance has already tripled in the last few months as the impact of Gardenia's outreach and Katie's excellent programming has continued to grow. More often than you'd imagine, we have several hundred artists attending each of our workshops, which is amazing, but also speaks to the need for the support that we're offering. A lot of our work prioritizes support on equity-deserving groups that were mentioned previously, and we're working very closely with the Equity Office and Michelle, along with the Accessibility Office, to really make sure that we're delivering help where it's needed most, along with ongoing collaboration with Kelly and Victoria and the rest of the culture team. Some exciting developments for this year. As you may have seen, Luminato Festival, one of the most significant festivals in North America as far as arts and culture goes, is coming to Brampton for the first time, thanks to our work. We will be going to North by Northeast Festival, offering a music showcase in Toronto. We're working closely with PAMA on planning a large outdoor exhibition and ongoing programs and workshops, including some of the work that Laura and Mike spoke to as far as supporting Brampton filmmakers. And it's very encouraging to see that we're all clearly recognizing the need for removing some of the barriers that especially the more emerging artists face. Next slide, please. Lastly, I just wanted to share an update that we have decided on a name in collaboration with the community after several community consultations and meetings with local arts leaders. We have decided to move forward with the name Brampton Arts Organization, BAO or BOW, and we have also refined our vision, mission, and values as we look to move into recovery and the years ahead. If I could just simply close by saying that we are truly offering significant unprecedented support by addressing the needs and concerns of the community, whether it be funding, as mentioned, access to space, or other supports. But there's still significant work ahead, and this work really must be done in partnership. Continued support of our organization and the cultural sector really is vital. Just before I say goodbye, I'd like to share a quick video from Navi Sidhu, our chair, and a few local artists speaking to the work that we've done together.
So, Mr. Chair, we'll just bring up the video here momentarily.
Mayor Brown and members of council, I'm so excited to be providing you an update as the chair for ACEDA. ACEDA will soon be rebranded to the Brampton Arts Organization, or BOW for short. We are coming full circle with this rebranding of BOW, as 2022 is the second year of incubation. We are thrilled to have refined our vision, mission, and values to better reflect arts and culture scene in Brampton as a Brampton Arts Organization. Over the past year, BOW has been leading the pursuit for more space for artists, which is so desperately needed, as shown by the Big Brampton Arts Space Survey. Working with culture, we have developed a creative space strategy, and we're hoping for the support of city planning and city real estate to make real change happen for artists. According to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, arts, culture, and heritage improve the ability for municipal governments to influence local economic development by attracting and retaining a skilled and talented workforce. This is why BOW, our advisory panel and staff, are focused on the arts and culture as key to economic recovery and tourism, not only in downtown, but across the Brampton as well. We will continue to make employment opportunities for artists and musicians, performers a priority. We've been pivotal in ensuring festivals like Illuminato will be bringing its programming to Brampton this year, and we're excited that North by Northeast will be dedicating a showcase again to Brampton talent this year. We've also collaborated with the CBC for My Brampton Day, not only being featured by them, but also connecting them to local artists. The BOW team is dedicated to continue programming that will uplift our artists and drive more Ontarians into Brampton. The Brampton Arts Organization's work has been central to the term of council priorities, making sure Brampton is a mosaic city, a city of opportunity, and we will continue to drive forward the Culture Master Plan. BOW will also be launching our Artist Ambassador Program over the summer with artists like Rupert Kaur and Director X that will be joining us as ambassadors. Let's hear from a few artists now.
It's not every day you see initiatives like this really pushing for young artists. You know, in Toronto, like everyone always comes from like, you're a Toronto-based artist, and it's like now I'm actually in a place where I can actually say I'm a Brampton-based artist that works in Toronto or works in Mississauga or Hamilton, you know. It's just very important to have the support, and I'm very grateful at the fact that there's so much initiatives to help bring Brampton artists from the underground into the light, because Brampton has a lot of talent that we just don't get the space to showcase.
It's like a projection. They project me to the entire world now. Things work easy for me in terms of relationship with art dealers, collectors, and even auction internationally. When I came down here, within a short time, it's the acceleration is quite, I don't know, it's just like a speed, you know. They gave me that platform to be able to, you know, to explore more, even beyond my capacity, beyond my imagination.
The Brampton Arts Organization has definitely been supportive over the past few months by providing opportunities for Broadening Horizons and myself to connect and meet new artists through their Roundtable series. We were really lucky to start off the series with a creative wellness and mental health roundtable, which really set the tone for the work that we got to do through the pandemic, using art to engage the community on taking care of their wellness. So the Brampton Arts Organization has been a great support, and we really look forward to continuing our work with them.
You know, I had to do a lot of growing. I had to do a lot of research just to figure things out. But when I finally met people like Katie Belshaw of the Brampton Arts Organization, I was able to bridge great connections between her, getting access to knowledge and information that really kind of helped me take my career forward, including connecting with the Rose Theater. The Rose Theater was honestly really helpful in that, thanks to the Brampton Arts Organization, because now I'm able to call myself a curator. And all my friends who are hip-hop artists, R&B artists, and other people that are doing the same thing as me, we were able to get on a big stage within the Rose Theater and showcase our art. Like, that was crazy, and a really great experience that I know we can all speak to. Those things aren't possible without the Brampton Arts Organization and the information that they provide. So I really feel like if we continue to have an organization like that helping out the community, we can really take it to another level. And I'm excited to see where we take it from there.
I'm Rupi Kaur, and I'm so thrilled to be an ambassador with the Brampton Arts Organization. I grew up in Brampton, and it's where my love for poetry and performance began. I grew up organizing open mics and art exhibits here, and that's why this position and this organization means so much to me. I think that we need to be doing more to uplift the local arts and culture sector, and I think we need to start at the grassroots, because Brampton artists are amazing, and the city really needs to get at their level and provide them with the space and the resources that they need. So I hope that you'll join me in attending the events and the programming that the Brampton Arts Organization puts on, and let's build a beautiful organization together.
We've had an exciting year since I've been appointed as chair, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the advisory panel and the exceptional BEL staff for all their hard work in 2021 and even more in 2022.
Thank you. Does that complete
Thank you
your
very much.
presentation?
That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We have a speakers list. We'll start with Councillor Willens, followed by Madero, Spowman, and Williams. Councillor Willens.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mike. I'm here, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you, Michael, for coming in. I guess, thanks for the presentation. I'm not being critical of ACIDA here. My questions really are, my concerns are, in 2018, we did a cultural master plan, and it was unanimously approved by council and support from the various delegations that came in from the arts community. There's no doubt we have excellent artists, excellent in our community here, very, very proud of our art community. I guess my question really is, one of the key factors in that was identified that we needed dedicated art hubs or artist-run centers. I would have expected that this report, not your presentation, but the report would have saying, hey, we've got spaces available now for the artists, because I'm hearing from artists that they don't have spaces. And you had in your presentation, you showed that there was the percentage of people that are still looking for space. So I guess that's really my concern. I'm hoping that it moves forward quicker in 2024. That'll be 6 years after we approved the cultural master plan. That's unacceptable in my mind. It was a 10-year plan. I don't know, did staff just shelve that? What you're doing is good work, Michael, don't get me wrong, but it's got to move faster. There's a lot of things we got to do, and I think you mentioned the Civic Center. That could be one location, but I think having artist hubs or artist-run centers would be better. I mean, I couldn't see somebody in this one spot, putting something like the Jazz Mechanics in there with a painter. It just doesn't make sense. We've got to really start looking at some of our facilities, our real estate that we have downtown, and open those up to the artists. Reuse Beaux-Arts, reuse 55 Queen. I guess that's just my frustrations, but anyway, I'll listen to what the other councillors have to say. But thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. I appreciate your concern, and I share it as far as the importance of cultural space for creatives. I think that the Civic Center space will be a first initial step. I'm keen for more collaboration with folks in city real estate, planning, and economic development to continue this work. We are setting up an informal working group on the ACIDA end, and I know that the culture team is looking at this very closely as well. I've only been here for a year, and I feel like I've been able to have quite an impact over the last year, but I agree that there's quite a long way to go as far as support for these artists regarding space. I think resourcing is a huge part of that. The per capita funding of arts and culture in Toronto is $25 per capita, and we're sitting at, I think, about $16, and I think that's a key piece of this conversation. If it's all right, I'd like to defer to my colleague Kelly Stahl to speak to some of the work on the Culture Master Plan, because they've really been spearheading this.
Yeah, Michael, don't get me wrong. Michael, don't get me wrong. I'm not pointing any fingers at you. I think you've done wonderful work since you've got here. My concerns is why it's taken to get to where we have you to get this going. I mean, that sat on the shelf since 2018. Yes, we've had COVID in between, but staff could have been working on a lot of the things that I speak to. By all means, I'm not blaming you. You've done excellent work. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I completely understand. I'll pass off to Kelly now.
Thanks, Councillor Willens. Through the chair, just an update that the Culture Master Plan has been underway since 2018. One of the first initiatives was the development of the Arm's Length Arts Organization to have deeper connection to the arts community to better understand some of those urgent space needs. It was a priority of Michael's when he started to do the space survey, so that we have the data now that we can bring in front of council to consider what types of space and support the community needs in order to enhance those spaces. As far as the broader goals and ambitions of the Culture Master Plan, we are bringing a report to council before the end of June that will articulate where we have landed in the first 4 years of work underway. And at that time, Councillor Williams, happy to discuss any further items that you'd like to see moving forward at a faster pace.
Thank you, Kelly. Next is Councillor Medeiros. Oh, you did? Sorry, I didn't see that. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I know we've had discussion sort of offline on this as well. It's funny because I was going to mention some of the things that Councillor Willens did, because we did have the cultural master plan that I think 6 of us in prior term of council passed unanimously. And it, as Kelly said, lays out very clearly that funding was the #1 weakness, space to perform was a #1 weakness, and opportunities for diversity and culture were highlighted in this report. Back then, we also talked about some of the buildings, and Kelly, you may remember, I suggested the building that's currently, it's a heritage building that's currently sitting on FCC. It's the former Police Academy building. And again, here we are 5 years later, because we mentioned that in 2017. 5 years later, and that building still sits there. There's been nothing done with that building. It's got 16-foot-high ceilings, which are perfect for some of the arts and the performing arts. And to me, it's just disappointing for me that we haven't found space. This city has space. We've got space everywhere. But we're just not, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why we're not getting to it, why we're not putting up pop-ups, even if we have to, in various places. We've got empty buildings in our downtown that we could have been using for arts and culture for the last 2 years. I mean, so I don't even know who this question's directed to. How do we get space dedicated? I don't understand what's taking so long either. And it's kind of disappointing because, as you saw from the previous presentation, we're looking at millions and millions and millions of dollars in economic development through performing arts, through film. So I don't know, where do we start and how do we accelerate this so we're not waiting till 2024 to have places for people to perform?
Through you, Mr. Chair, let us take that back and we'll look at our spaces and we'll respond back to that in the very near future.
Yeah, and I will say to the people who look after our buildings, when I originally asked about it, I heard the dreaded word mold. Okay, so there's mold in a building. There's mold in lots of buildings, but 5 years we couldn't have eliminated the mold and had that place ready for people to be using for performance. It doesn't make any sense to me why we're taking so long. And everybody here on council knows the number of properties that this city owns that we could have had set up by now. So if we can do that and accelerate this, I think that's what we need. We can't wait till 2024. So I don't think there's any direction. I just think we need to take a serious look at what we've got in our inventory and start moving with it.
Through the chair, if I may respond, thank you. I appreciate your concern. And I agree that I think that the moment is now to really pursue some of these different objectives. There are all sorts of opportunities that we could perhaps pursue with the right resourcing, pilot pop-up programs, looking at unused or underused city-owned property. For a little bit of context, my previous experience was running an arts organization called Akin that was focused on activating unused space, both owned by the City of Toronto and privately. In a few years, we were able to provide roughly 50,000 square feet of space through innovative partnerships, also support through the city. But I appreciate your desire to accelerate it because I think I share it. And I know that with a little bit of support through other city departments, we could really make a big impact.
Thank you. Is that all? Okay. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, through you, Chair. just want to say that it's so great to see, though, what started out as a plan has now become an official organization, and all throughout the year and before, it's great to see that events that we're having at the city is sponsored and in collaboration with ACEDA or BOW. And so that's a really good thing for us to be promoting and working together, because you have the skills and abilities to be that creative force to make all of our events and experiences for our residents that much more heightened and that much more connected to our arts and culture. So kudos, and it's looking really great. I do wonder with some of the funding structures, and how much are we relying on provincial funding through their travel and tourism sectors to be able to get funding for some of the organization's initiatives?
Through the chair, I personally wouldn't be able to speak to the tourism funding that's being accessed. Laura and Michael and Heather and that entire team are very close partners of ours. We've collaborated on the farmers market, having artist booths there, looking at different downtown performances, now being looped into the downtown BIA's plans for activating downtown over the summer. But it's a little bit out of scope for me to speak to the tourism funding.
Oh, I was wondering more of there is funding provincially that's been allocated for sports tourism and arts in that sector, and I'm wondering how much of that have we been able to access to help grow the organization, and is that something that we're tapping into?
Through the chair, we're actively looking into that. We haven't received any of that funding at the moment. We've really been focused on our ongoing programs and resources, but I think that there is money out there, and I'd be keen to continue sort of looking into that with our other partners.
Absolutely. I think it would be good because we have the framework in place, we have the organization and backing with the city to be able to really apply for some of these funding pockets and help grow this, because as my colleagues have said, arts and culture does impact economic growth in the city. So we should be able to find ways to make sure that you're fully funded and that we're supporting any ways that we can. But thank you so much, great work, and I look forward to seeing what more is going to come out of our amazing art sector here in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. I don't see, Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And as the council rep for BOW, the Brampton Arts Organization, it has been a pleasure to get to know and work with this particular panel and see the amazing work that BOW has been doing over the past year. That being said, I want to make something very clear, because there's maybe some confusion. BOW is not the be-all and end-all of arts in Brampton. It is not. And in fact, BOW, which will become the arm's length organization in the city of Brampton, is only a piece of the cultural master plan. It's just a piece. And Kelly, I'm looking forward to seeing that report and the update for the culture master plan when it comes up in June. But BOW is not the be-all and end-all for arts in Brampton. And I think some of the frustration, which I share with my colleagues as well, with respect to arts and why it's taking so long, etc., does have a lot to do with the fact that our per capita funding in the arts in Brampton is significantly small, or we have a shortfall compared to other booming cities, whether that's Toronto or Hamilton or Mississauga. That in Toronto, it's $25 per capita in spending directly for the arts versus $16 in Brampton. And so we know that when there are no resources to allocate to something, then things aren't going to necessarily happen as quickly as we want. And so I think we also need to take a look at how much we're investing in the arts and whether or not that investment actually meets our expectations on what we want for arts in the city of Brampton. And the only other thing that I will add to that point with respect to funding, because we don't have a specific budget line item for the arts, whether that's public art or etc., to support artists and the arts, the flourishing of arts in Brampton, because it's not necessarily there. What we've been doing is ad hoc asking for money from different departments. I remember in a meeting I did specifically ask, you know, how departments across the city of Brampton are thinking about their upcoming capital works projects or opportunities to include arts, public arts or what have you, into their projects, whether that's a new recreation center, a renovation of a recreation center, or upcoming stormwater concrete that could be a canvas for a mural, or any of those different things. And I'm not sure whether or not that is being seriously considered. And so when folks are frustrated, myself, my colleagues included, about why things are happening so slowly, it certainly is not the fault of BOW. It certainly is not the fault of whether or not we have implementation of the Culture Master Plan. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are not taking the investment in arts seriously. And at the end of the day, to Councillor Bowman's point, the impact, the economic impact and the GDP that's generated from performing arts, from film, from other creative industries in the city of Brampton is significant. You look at the buzz around Toronto or Hamilton and Mississauga and we say, why can't Brampton be that way? Well, Brampton can't be that way because people are not taking the investment seriously. And I think with upcoming budgets coming up, with the update on the Culture Master Plan, and me saying again, if there are upcoming projects, capital works projects, if there's any opportunity within the various departmental budgets to consider integrating arts into your work, into your department, that's the only way we're going to get there. And so I just wanted to share that because the artists in Brampton deserve a canvas, they deserve a stage, and they deserve the same opportunities as other artists that are getting in other municipalities across the country. So thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to the update on the Culture Master Plan. And congrats to all of the panelists on BOW.
Thank you, and I don't see any other speakers, so I have a motion to receive the presentation moved by Councillor Santos, and a motion to receive the staff report 11.2.2 from Councillor Williams. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the motions carry. The time is 12:32, so I'd recommend a lunch break. Councillors, would 1:15 be okay? 1:15? 1? Okay, 1? We're good with 1? Okay. 1 o'clock. So we'll break for lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This meeting is now recessed. So members of the committee, just before we get started, I'm just going to confirm the members I see online. I see Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Dillon, Councillor Williams, Councillor Willens, and in the chamber for those participating remotely is Chair Singh, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Santos, Councillor Bowman, and Councillor Visante. So, Mr. Chair, it is 1 o'clock. You do have quorum.
Thank you, and I see Councillor Fortini has his mic.
Mr. Chair, just gonna ask if we could, Mr. Clerk, if we could go in camera as people been waiting. Been there since 9:30 this morning.
So through you, Mr. Chair, if committee wishes to vary the order to move into closed session now to deal with its business, there's 3 items on the agenda. Committee can just pass a motion with a majority vote to vary the order to go into closed at this point in time. And we can just bring the motion up on the screen in a moment. We'll be going into closed session. I presume then the motion is to move into closed session to deal with items 15.2, 15.3, and added item 15.4.
I think Councillor Fortini's intent is to have 15.4 first.
Yeah, so they can leave, and then we might as well deal with all the rest, I guess, since we're
in order.
They have budget to go to. Thank you.
So Councillor Fortini will move the motion to move into close and varying the order. So it'll be, if my memory serves me correct, 15.4, 15.2, and 15.3. Okay. Is anybody opposed to going in close? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. How long do you need, Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think we'll need a healthy 10 minutes, please.
10 minutes? Okay, we'll do 1:15. Okay.
Thank you. So members of committee, just before we get started, to reconvene at 2:55, I'm just going to verify the members I do see present. Online, I see Councillor Santos. I don't know if Councillor Santos is participating remotely or will be attending in chambers.
I'm remote, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Santos. I see Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Williams, and Councillor Willens, and Councillor Dillon. And members in chambers are Chair Singh, Councillor Bowman, and Councillor Visante. So, Mr. Chair, it is 2:55. You do have a quorum present to proceed.
To read out?
Mr. Chair, yes. So I can do a quick review of the report out from closed session. So there were 3 items that committee moved into closed session for. The first was 15.2. This is an item under an open meeting exception under section 239 2C and K of the Municipal Act, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a planned position, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on to or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding K. Blair Hospice. This item was considered in closed session. Information was received and direction was given, including direction that a public motion be considered, which we'll bring on the screen now. And it will require a mover.
I'll move it.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, when this originally came forward, I discussed it with Councillor Vicente as well, that I would be moving it. So if you don't mind, I'd love to move it.
Sure, we'll both move it.
Councillor Singh and Councillor Dillon. So, Mr. Chair, if you could take a vote on that public motion arising from closed.
Yep. We'll take a vote on the motion regarding Kay Blair. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries.
Thank you. The next item was 15.3, an open session meeting exception under Section 239 2C of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, a property acquisition matter. This matter was considered in closed session. Information was received, and procedural direction was given to refer the matter back to staff for further consideration. Finally, we have item 15.4, the added closed session item for today's agenda. It is an open meeting exception under Section 239 2C and K of the Municipal Act, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and a position plan procedure, criteria or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Information was received and considered by committee, and direction was given to staff in regard to that item. And that is the report out from closed session, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we'll go back to our corporate services agenda. 11.2.3 was a staff report regarding 2022 Transportation Asset Management Plan, and that was put in consent. Moving on to other and new business, we have 11.3.1, a discussion item at the request of City Councilor Willens regarding better usage of Highway 407 Express Toll Route. Councilor Willens?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. This is the reason I didn't want to walk this on last week, because there's a lot of whereases, so I'm hoping the council has a chance to read it. I'll just go right to the therefores if you don't mind, Peter, but I do believe that Councilor Santos did put an amendment into this, which I accepted. I think it's down towards the bottom. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So I don't know if it can be taken as read. It's just basically a motion to better utilize the 407. With the 413, even if it does get approved, it's quite a long ways away. So we're looking at, it's a motion that other municipalities that the highway will be affecting, as well as the 407. So it's a motion that other municipalities around the GTA have put forth to the different very levels of government, including the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board as well, that are one of the 50% owners of the 407. So I don't know if anybody needs me to read it out, or we can just take a vote on it and then it be forwarded to those mentioned at the bottom of the motion. Is that sufficient, Peter? Or
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll defer to committee.
I think you had it published on the agenda, so I think everybody's read it. Yeah. Is there any?
Yeah, it was published.
And I think nobody has an issue with the amendment. Councillor.
No, if there's no issues, could we maybe have all of council endorse this, support it? I know Councillor Bowman did say he would second it to get it on the agenda, but with Council Santos' amendments to it, I'm happy if all council would support this.
Sure. Okay, that request has been made. Is anybody opposed to supporting this motion? I don't hear anybody, so we'll have all the council second. Moving on, Councillor Santos.
No, I think that if there's no one that has issues with my amendments, essentially the provincial government made an announcement to relieve the 412 and 418 of any tolls. And we know that transport trucks use the 407, and it's one of the issues of congestion on the other highways, and also in the queue in terms of usage for the 413 if it happens. And so the suggestion is just to advocate to the province to, at the very least, pay for the toll charges for those transport trucks utilizing the 407 to better make use of the 407 itself. And also in the previous council or committee of council meeting, General Manager Alex Milojevic shared with us that on average we spend about $1 million per year on 407 charges to move people on Brampton Transit more efficiently. And so the motion is also an advocacy to have the province pay for those Brampton toll charges as well.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's moved by all of council. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Moving on, we have a discussion item by Councilor Fertini, 11.3.2, risk insurance. Councilor Fertini, are you online?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. To staff, so, we approved this risk insurance going back 3 years ago, and I've noticed that they take about $8,600 out of my budget account every year. I had a complaint, so I went out and used an outside lawyer. When I submit my bill, it says it doesn't cover it. So why are we paying $94,600 a year times 4 years, almost $400,000, when we cannot use it? What is this for? Which firm is using it? And I'd like to know who's been using it until now, because that's what we were told on the video. It was for risk insurance in case we needed a lawyer, we got lawsuit. So I don't know who could answer that. And this has been going on through every councilor's budget, not only one, everyone.
Through the chair, it's Diana Seuss.
Yes.
Councilor Fortini. So the Justice Risk Solution contract provides a hotline for council members to call into, as well as $5,000 a month for council to receive legal advice and opinions.
Okay, so I'd like to...
Sorry,
go ahead.
As to whom is utilizing it, that is not something that city staff have access to. That information is not provided to us because it's an external service that you as councillors are calling into and receiving advice from, and so we don't receive that information back.
Okay, thank you. And would we know who this... It was called risk insurance. That nobody talked about giving advice, if we pull up the minutes. It was about, as the mayor said, it was in case we got sued or we need outside legal, it's there for us. That's what was said. If it was for advice, you could pick up a hotline. There's a lot of free places that give you advice. We didn't have to pay taxpayers money, $400,000 out of our budget to get advice. So, which company is this now? This risk insurance. They called it risk insurance at the time. Insurance like insurance on your car or your house. That's why it was insurance. It wasn't for advice. So now that I brought that bill in for $5,100, which I got a complaint on, I had to get legal advice outside. Now I'm saying it doesn't cover. It's like getting car insurance. Says, I'm sorry, you're not covered after they took the money. And which company is doing this? The name of the company. And we were never told it was just for advice, because I would never support, I need advice from outside legal, to pay all this money. And it's $8,600 that took out of my budget. If we multiply it by 11 councils, 94,000, divide by 12 months, it's $8,200 per month going to this. For advice, we can hire our own legal in here and they give us all the advice we want for that price. So which companies, what's the name of the company?
Through the chair to Councilor Fortini, the name of the company is Justice Risk Solutions, Inc.
Okay. So how can we say it was a risk insurance in case we had a lawsuit or we need outside legal, and now it's only for pick up a hotline phone? Who would pay $400,000 just to pick up a phone and talk to someone? I just don't get it. That's not what we were told. So I'd like to bring it back or check the minutes, because I remember, I have the video that said in case we need a lawyer or we get sued. It was never talking, and it was called risk insurance. It was never talked about a hotline that you could pick up a phone and get advice.
Okay. Would staff like to comment, or?
So maybe the clerk could bring back the minutes when it was approved, because that's what, I have a video also. That's what it was said at the time. And it was a walk-on, I think.
Through the chair, is Councilor Fortini asking for a report back?
Yeah, I think that's what it sounds like. Councilor Fortini, would you like a report?
But I don't want the report. I want the minutes that what we were talking council, why we were approving this.
So
Because the report was a walk-on and the minutes, so we took what staff told us why we're having this.
Okay.
And I remember also the mayor saying, in case we get a lawsuit, we need outside legal. We also talked about we needed this for lacrosse. Lacrosse was mentioned to 2 or 3 other councilors. We sent a letter, and that's why we approved it. So
Okay. Does CAO have any comments? Yep.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, Councilor Fortini, if you allow us, refer it back to staff, we'll come back with a report, and it'll be inclusive of whatever minutes we can find for you. And we will actually engage in conversation to make sure we haven't missed anything.
Yeah, thank you. And now, because of the way we found this out is because I submitted my bill for the Integrity Commission complaint, and which, shouldn't even been gone to Integrity Commission, or they should have been looked at and said, well, this doesn't have any merit. So because of this, I had to go pay outside legal. And this all came out when I find out that it doesn't cover it. So now I have to bring a motion forward, Mr. Clerk, to ask council to reimburse me back.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. There is a mayor and council expense policy which is in effect, and that policy was amended this term to basically say that legal expenses incurred by individual members of council are ineligible expenses. The dispute mechanism is if a member does not agree with that, they can bring it forward to council through committee of council to get a resolution to provide those legal expenses, and there is precedent for doing that this term.
Okay, so can I bring it forward today, or I have to wait for next committee for that motion to have my outside legal reimbursed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe you could bring it forward now if you have a motion, but I don't have the details of the actual expenses that you're speaking to. One option is through you, Mr. Chair, would be that the minutes from this meeting will go to council next week, so it could be introduced as a motion next week at council.
Exactly what I was going to say. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, for clearing up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yeah, and I guess what Councilor Fortini went through was a little bit what I had gone through when I was seeking reimbursement from legal advice as well. And I think there's a lot of ambiguity around what the surface actually does. I know a couple years ago, I think there was a letter that we were told that was sent to on the basis of lacrosse, and we used a legal service, and all of us got charged our account. So if in part of the report back, if we can see how much money has been spent by this term of council on that, and what was it for, because I have no idea. We keep getting charged every month, and I don't know what in addition that it provides, because we already have coverage as board of directors of this corporation. We already have legal coverage. So, back in the day, and maybe I should have asked more probing questions. I assumed it was something in addition, because it was supposed to be a service that was an enhancement, and when we seek legal service, we had to flip the bill, and several councillors had to split that. So in addition to the service we're paying, we had to pay from our accounts. I'd much rather, sponsor a community event or stuff like that than be paying for legal services on something which was an internal. So as part of the report back, if we can get sort of itemized what's been spent, where it's spent, why do we do it, and how can we get out of it? Because I don't see any benefit to this. So if there's a mechanism in which we can sort of cancel the service of some sort, because I don't know how it's being used, honestly. It's one of those things that we approved at the time. It seemed great, and whenever we have these situations, and with other sort of, I know other members of council are dealing with other sort of situations when it comes to integrity commissioners and so on. So if we're seeking legal advice, can we use this or not use this? Do we get reimbursed? Don't we not get reimbursed? So if we can go back to square one and get the sort of the details around it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much. Just to follow up on what Councillor Fortini and Councillor Medeiros were asking for in the report, is it possible to have a report, whether it's in camera or not, itemized, where the money was spent and who was the money spent on, basically. Because if we've spent 96 grand over a year for 4 years, that's a lot of money. And if it's just been wasted, if nobody has used it, you know, that's on us. But if it has been used and put to good use, then that's a question of whether we need to keep it or not. So I'd really like to see who's been using it and how much of it we actually used.
Through the chair to Councillor Brown, we will put together all of the background information from the beginning on this contract, and any information we have regarding the use of the services we will provide.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and move that the chair be heard. Yep, thank you. So, you know, I was under the impression too that this was a way that we were protected. It provided a level of protection. So what I'm hearing is, no, it was, okay. Okay, all right. So I guess I was under the wrong impression. Okay, okay, I'll wait for the report and see what comes back. So we do have a motion for staff to report back on this item, and I'll have Councillor Fortini move it. Is anybody opposed? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Moving on, we have a discussion item regarding Bill C-233 from Councillor Pleshy. Councillor Pleshy, I believe you also have a motion, and it's on the screen. And you can read it, or it's up to you, but I'll pass the floor on to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize to members for walking this on. It was something that was just brought to my attention and is up for debate in legislature tomorrow. Just a little bit of background, and I think everybody will recall Kira, but the Oakville North Burlington MP, Pam Damoff, has been working with MP Dillon on BC Bill C-233 and alongside Jennifer Keegan. Jennifer mummed Kira to implement the changes to the judicial system to protect women and children in situations of intimate family partner violence and involved in custody litigations. Kira, then 4, and her biological father, Robin Brown, were found dead at the bottom of an escarpment at Rattlesnake Point Conservation Area in Milton in February of 2020. Kira's parents got married in 2013 and separated 2 years later, after which Jennifer left the house, left the home in Burlington, and moved to Thornhill. At the time of her death, Kira lived with her mother and stepfather, Philip. Bill C-233 would mandate judges receive training on domestic violence and coercive control. The motion that we've drafted out of Oakville Halton's similar motion has been sent by the clerk's office to the members of council. And I would ask that the clerk read out the motion in its entirety. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor, do you want me to start with the whereases?
Yes, please.
So we'll just bring that up on the screen. And so it's moved by Councillor Paleshi. I'm just going to read it from the screen. Whereas violence against women is a Canadian public health crisis that demands urgent attention, and whereas 1 in 4 women experience domestic violence in their lifetime, 1 woman or child or girl is killed every other day on average somewhere in our country, and whereas the most dangerous time for a victim of abuse is when she separates from her partner, and whereas the current Canadian court system is not equipped to protect women, according to the National Judicial Institute, there is no mandatory education for judges on domestic violence. Judges need education on what constitutes domestic violence or coercive control. A formal education program would ensure another line of defense for victims, as well as preventing violence and abuse before it happens. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has only exacerbated the domestic violence crisis, women's shelters and crisis centers have reported a marked increase in requests for services this year. The concerns of children are significant. according to recent research from the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. Doctors have seen more than double the number of babies with serious injuries at this time last year. Just scroll up. These include head injuries, broken bones, or in some cases death. Institutions across the country are reporting a similar trend, and whereas in 2020, Peel Police responded to more than 18,000 incidents of family and intimate partner violence. On average, that's 50 disputes every day or 2 every hour. That's just what gets reported. Most incidents are not reported. Family and intimate partner violence is any type of controlling or threatening behavior, physical or sexual violence, or abuse between intimate partners or family members. In Peel, over 85% of those that report this type of violence are women, with the highest reported rate in the ages 25 to 34. This includes women of any race, sexual orientation, religion, or economic background. Whereas abuse is the attempt by one person to control another using fear, violence, or intimidation. Abuse is not just physical, but emotional, sexual, financial, and psychological. And whereas, according to Article 19 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, children must be protected from all forms of physical or mental violence, injury or abuse, neglect or negligent treatment, maltreatment or exploitation, including sexual abuse, while in the care of parents, legal guardians, or any other person who has care of the child. Our current family justice system often fails our children in this regard. And whereas in worst case scenarios, children are killed by a violent parent, as reported by the Canadian Domestic Homicide Prevention Initiative, recent separation and domestic violence are the 2 biggest risk factors for domestic violence related to child homicides. And whereas custody disputes are an additional risk factor, each year in Canada, about 30 children are killed by a parent. Mothers are responsible for about 40% of the time, often due to postpartum depression or mental illness. In the 60% of cases where fathers are the murderers, anger, jealousy, or post-separation retaliatory revenge are the usual motivations. And whereas Kira's Law is named after 4-year-old Kira Kagan, who was killed while in custody of her father in 2020, and whereas in many cases of domestic violence are inappropriately labeled as high conflict in the family court system, according to research by Rachel Birnbaum, a social work professor at the University of Western Ontario who specializes in child custody, approximately 1/3 of cases called high conflict by the court had substantiated evidence of valid concerns about domestic violence. These cases must be recognized and treated differently by judges. And whereas voting in favor of Kira's Law contained in Private Members Bill C-233 will not only protect victims of violence and children, it will save lives by amending the Judges Act to establish seminars for judges on intimate partner violence and coercive control. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Brampton City Council calls upon the House of Commons to support Members of Parliament Andrew Dillon's Private Members Bill C-233 that will raise the level of education on domestic violence and coercive control for federally appointed judges, and further that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Karina Gould, MP, Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honourable Candice Bergen, Interim Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Yves-François Blanchet, MP, Leader of the Bloc Québécois, Jagmeet Singh, MP, Leader of the New Democratic Party, and Brampton MPs.
Thank you. We have the motion as read by the clerk, moved by Councillor Pleshy. I don't see any other questions. So is anybody opposed?
Recorded vote, Mr. Chair.
A recorded vote, I think, is a fair request. We'll have a recorded vote administered by the clerk. If you can administer it, clerk.
Members in favor or opposed to the motion, please indicate. Councillor Dillon.
In favor.
Councillor Fortini.
In favor.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Medeiros.
Yes.
That's a yes. Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Paleshi.
In favor.
Councillor Willens. Councillor Willens? Councillor Willens appears to have left. Councillor Vicente?
Yes.
It's a yes. Councillor Santos?
Yes.
Chair Singh?
Yes.
That motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, correspondence, 11.4.1, 11.4.2. We're in consent. 11.4.3 has been deferred. Councillor question period. Are there any questions from any councillors? Seeing and hearing none. Public question period. To the clerk, is there any questions for the public? There is no. So moving on to the Public Works and Engineering section, I will pass it over to Chair Vicente.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Members of the committee, we're now going to begin the Public Works and Engineering section. We had a number of items entered into consent, so we will now move ahead to item 12.2.3, a request to begin procurement for environmental and geotechnical consulting services for a 3-year period. This was held by Councillor Pelletier. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in going through the report, I see not a lot of information in this report. It does state in the report that up to $100,000, one particular company will be used. Over $100,000, all 3 companies will be used. Nowhere in the report does it actually say how much money that this is going to be allocated to this procurement. I'd like a better understanding of who we used in the last 3 years, how much that costs over the last 3 years, and maybe more of a history to that. How often do we use companies like this in what purpose? I just found not a lot of information to the report, so I'll refer this back to staff and ask for additional information to come back by way of financial implications and past histories of the companies that we've used, and the costs that have been associated in the past procurements. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I see staff nodding in agreement. I see no further questions, so we have a motion of referral moved by Councillor Pelletier. All in favor, any opposed? That carries. Next, 12.2.7, item held by Councillor Bowman regarding Brampton Transit updates moving forward. Councillor.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. Alex, I went through the report, the approved funding and the financing over the next little while, and I just had a couple of questions. There's basically 3 charts. The first is approved. The second is future eligible funding. And we seem to be 395 million we're eligible for. Any ideas how much of that we're projecting to get other than just eligible for?
Absolutely. Through the chair, Councillor Bowman, we are hoping to get all of that, and that's part of the expression of interest that we submitted to the federal government. And there's many pieces to the puzzle, if I can say, in terms of making everything connect, and I can speak to that if you'd like further to give you a better understanding.
No. I just want to make sure that, as we're budgeting the money, that these are realistic, because we have had experiences in the past where we budgeted a certain gas tax coming back, and I did ask the question then, what happens if we don't get that much? And unfortunately it came true, we didn't get that much. So I don't want to overthink this. If you think that we're going to get that money, that's good enough for me.
And maybe I can just further through the chair, you're absolutely right. I mean, that doubling the gas tax is primarily for the operating side of transit. These capital programs, including the $400 million loan from Canada Infrastructure Bank, ties into multiple other buckets of funding, if I can say that, both federally and provincially. To make all that work, we need that funding, and the respective governments understand that. So any budget implications will be brought to our council, but we fully hope and intend to receive those monies. If we don't, we'd have to scale back our program. But when you look at the robust program through this term of council, it's probably the busiest I've ever had in my career, and a great one. We've got over close to $3 billion, and it's something that is, we need to be very proud of. So, Councillor Bowman, through the chair, these funding models are all contingent on the whole program and how we make it work. So we very much hope, and we're going through that whole process of expression of interest and business cases with the federal government as we speak.
Okay, and Alex, I probably should have asked on government relations earlier, is there anything put in place that the city might be able to take advantage of in terms of increases in gas and diesel prices? Like when we put our budgets together in 2021 for 2022, the price for gas and diesel was here, and now we're here. Is there anything that you know of that the federal or provincial governments are looking at that might account for a difference in price on cost of fuel?
Through the chair, the fuel pricing has been a industry pressure completely throughout the province of Ontario and across Canada. We have been working with the different levels of government to see if there's any type of potential opportunities for reviewing that. We do feel that it will be short-term, given the budget pressures like you mentioned, where we thought we'd be versus where we are today. There's a huge, significant shortfall that every system is experiencing. Right now, though, we have no indicator of any type of relief currently, but that advocacy is still going on through our industry, not only in Ontario, but across Canada as well.
Okay, so you said there's advocacy going on through your industry. Is this something that perhaps our government relations people should be looking at advocating for on behalf through AMO or FCM as well?
Absolutely, and through the chair, we'll definitely be, we do work closely with our government relations folks to make sure that any transit advocacy that goes on is communicated through all the efforts that our government relations are doing. So we'll make sure that we circle back with them on the fuel escalation costs as well.
Okay, because I know AMO is coming up very shortly in August. FCM, when is?
May.
May? Is it? Oh, May.
FCM May, August is AMO.
Is it possible to get something that this council could endorse to present at either one of those or both of them? I know May's a short, like it's next week, so.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll definitely circle back with the GR this week and make sure that we can get whatever messaging we can to parallel what the industry as a whole is messaging as well. But it just signifies more the importance of electrifying our fleet to help contain some of these escalated fuel costs based on everything that we have today. So absolutely, Councillor Bowman, we'll circle back with our GR folks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Singh.
The report said we're at 86% pre-COVID, but then if you go down in the bullets, it says 90% of pre-pandemic service hours for April 25th. So are we at 90% now, or?
Through the chair, throughout the GTHA, everyone's been experiencing between 50 to 65, 70% at the most. Brampton, we're exploding. We're at 85 to 90% now. The services that we have to date that we've restored because of all the cancellations that we've done for the shortfall of resources, and sorry, through the chair, we've implemented back 86%. So we're at 86%. However, our ridership is up to now 90% of what it was pre-pandemic. So we are experiencing capacity issues as expected, but also our team is looking at what more service can we implement with the resources that we have in absenteeism to try to match that capacity. So that's been a challenge for us throughout the pandemic. On top of everything else that we're doing, we've been dealing with COVID for the last 2 years, which has been an extreme challenge for transit systems. But that's something, Councillor Singh, that we're hoping to bring back in short time to be at 100% service, and then implementing the services that Council approved some time ago further in fall of this year as well.
So that would include the Pearson route, I'm assuming, and potentially the 501A? Or if we get the TTC fair share integration by then, I'm guessing one of them will be offered by September?
Yes, and through the chair, the council approved hours that were approved just before the pandemic hit us. We're expecting to implement this fall. That includes the Pearson Zoom services right to the Pearson Airport. and then as well as reviewing what we're doing with the 501A and C to see if we can have an integration model with TTC or the province, which we've been working on collectively, and if not, then what is the likelihood of being able to bring back that service? But we're trying to leverage the infrastructure that's there. It helps reduce some of our costs, like we mentioned earlier on the 407 as well. So we are working on that, but this year we plan to have that implemented in fall.
Okay, and I would echo some of Councillor Bowman's points in the sense we are going to be at AMO, and I think we should show how much our ridership has bounced back compared to other municipalities. That'll stress sort of how important transit, what importance of a role transit plays locally. I don't think anybody's even close, correct me if I'm wrong. I think everybody's sitting at 50 to 60%.
And through the chair, my understanding is Brampton is the fastest recovery coming out of the pandemic, and it's the nature of our community, it's demographics, it's economic, people rely on transit in our community. And that's why we got a huge uptake in terms of return of ridership. So we'll definitely prepare information with our colleagues in government relations to prepare for AMO and other advocacy type.
Yeah, I'm thinking even a little comparison with neighboring municipalities just to show, you know, it's an amazing story, I think. It also builds on the case for some of the other projects, whether it's BRT, LRT, all day, 2 day go. I mean, yeah, we'll be at full capacity by fall, it looks like, which is good news. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I see no further speakers, so we have a motion moved by Councillor Bowman to receive the report. All in favor, any opposed? And that carries. Moving along to item 12.3.2, a discussion at the request of Councillor Fertini with regard to noise walls. Councillor Fertini. Councillor Fertini? Is Councillor Fertini still in the meeting, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, he is in the meeting. Councillor, his microphone's currently muted. I don't know if he stepped away for a moment.
Perhaps then might I suggest to members of committee that we refer this item to council and give Councillor Fertini an opportunity. Moved by Councillor Medeiros. All in favor, any opposed? That carries. So with that, we now have a discussion item at the request of Councillor Fertini as well with regards to the Goreway Bridge. We'll give Councillor Fertini a chance to call in. Councillor Fertini, are you there? So the same, we'll have a motion moved by Councillor Medeiros to refer the matter. Councillor Medeiros, speak.
Yeah, and my apologies. Thank you for the referral. Can I speak to a referral, City Clerk? Or?
Yes.
My apologies. I think there's been some confusion, and just as an up to staff, I know Councillor Fortini has probably spoken to staff about this because City of Mississauga, in particular Councillor Parrish, who's had a keen interest in this as it impacts her area, has expressed some frustration, I guess, from lack of, responsiveness, what they claim, in terms of working with our staff on this issue. I don't know what the real answer is, so maybe for council next week, we can get sort of a background and understanding where the disconnect is there if there's a lack of communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moved by Councillor Medeiros to refer.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Fertini, you are here. We're speaking to Goreway Bridge.
Yeah, so I talked to staff going back about 8 months ago and a couple of months ago. They said they were supposed to start construction. So I just want to ask staff, what's going on? As I had a discussion with Mississauga staff and Karen Parrish, and they said that we're holding up everything. So I want to know what's going on because she wants to come and delegate. Then she said, you tell them if I have to come to City Hall there, I will delegate. Why are we dragging our feet and what's a holdup? Because they're all waiting for us.
Councillor, staff will respond.
So is Tim on the line? Because
Through the chair, Councillor, it's
Tim
Parks.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to Tim because we went back and forth with Tim. I think. Okay, go ahead.
So through the chair, Councillor, I have an update that I've received from staff recently, as recent as today. There's a number of items on the list, including issues dealing with the region of Peel, through agreements, dealing with City of Mississauga with agreements, and I would suggest that the City of Brampton is not to blame on all these issues. So in response to Councillor Madero's suggestion, we could bring that information to next week's council meeting if that's okay.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that, but our discussion was with them, so I think I'm gonna add Councillor Parrish to our next council meeting, or next, for her to delegate. The discussion with Mississauga staff and her, that they've been waiting on for us for a long time. So going back to Tim, I was talking to him, our staff, a couple of months ago. He says, we're just negotiating with CN and ready to go by first week of May, should be starting construction. So that was 2 months ago. So she wants to come and delegate because as far as I know, they've been waiting for us. No, that's not their side. So don't get me wrong here. So I'll wait for the report. She is listening to this council meeting, and I hope she's happy with the answers. And I'll wait for the report next week, and then I'll talk to her about it. Thank you.
So we are referring the matter to next week's discussion to council. All in favor, any opposed? That carries. Next councillor question period. Do any members of council have questions for this section of the agenda? Seeing none. Public question period. Mr. Clerk, do we have questions from members of the public with regards to Public Works?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, with that then we move on to item 13, the referred matters list. Do any members of the committee have questions with regards to the referred matters list? Seeing none, move on to 14, public question period. There are no questions from members of the public. Thank you. And we have dealt with closed session items. So our next item is 16, adjournments. The next regular meeting of committee will be Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much. Stay healthy and stay safe. Motion moved by Councillor Bowman. All in favor?